Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Lekudumedise, sanibonani nonke. Dumelang. My name is Funzing Gobeni. I'm the member of the committee. Thank you very much.
Good morning, colleagues and the community. My name is Captuchero Rasilingwane. I'm the member of this committee. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Nico de Jager. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Sanibona nonke, Kamala Musolu Msimanga. I'm a member of the CoGTA Committee. Thank you.
Sanibona nonke ndlini. Igama nguSibusiso Wanyathi, ngi-member ye-committee ye-CoGTA. Siyabonga.
Dumelang kaofela. Lebitso la ka ke Neville Dilebo. I'm the member of the committee. Thank you.
Dumelang basebetsi mmoho le community at large. Ka lebitso ke Ndamolebohe Masoleng ke setho sa committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. And we have the support staff that is helping us. And we have the HOD, and I think he will introduce themselves at that point in time when they're dealing with issues. Now that this meeting is held outside the legislature, we have to declare this precinct a legislature precinct, and we'll do as follows, and particularly members are the ones that are dealing with this aspect. I, Honorable Mzikaifani Kumalo, Chairperson of CoGTA Portfolio Committee, hereby declare that the Gold Reef City Theme Park in Omonde in the city of Johannesburg as a precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 56.2 of the Standing Rules of the Gauteng Legislature, Version 5, Revision 2, read together with Section 2.1 and Section 2.4 of 2004. For the duration of this meeting, this place will be the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Thus, the standing rules of the legislature will apply and govern all the engagements of the day. Precinct of the legislature is described as follows. 1. The precinct of the parliament is the area of land and every building or part of the building under parliament control, including A, the chambers in which the proceedings of the house are conducted and the galleries and lobbies of the chambers. B, every part of the building in which the chambers are situated and every forecourt, yard, garden, enclosure or open space appurtenant thereto. Committee rooms and other meeting places provided or used primarily for parliament purposes. D, every other building or part of the building provided or used in connection with the proceedings of parliament while so used. And I would like members to then confirm that the true section that is helping us.
It is, Chair. You can confirm.
Thank you very much, Member Msimang. It's confirmed, and hope that it represents all of us. Let's then proceed to apologies. Who's going to read it? 40.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, honorable members, respective stakeholders, House at large. We haven't received any apologies from my side. Thank you.
I think from my side, I just received a notice from the MEC that he is requested to attend the education portfolio in Rosebank and will join us immediately thereafter.
Okay. And we have another apology from Member McKenna. She's not feeling well. She's at home. She's sick.
Thank you very much. Can we record all those apologies? And we can then proceed. In terms of the confirmation of the agenda, point 5 will be the opening remarks by the chair. 8.6 will be the briefing by AG, a presentation by CoGTA, and we'll have the stakeholders making input from the different ward committees, and then we'll have the date of the next meeting and closure. Can we have members confirming the agenda?
I confirm the agenda, Chair.
Any seconder? Viagra is just seconded, and I saw other colleagues wanted to. Those who are coming in, you are welcomed. Why are we here today? The Gauteng Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs presented its annual performance report for the 24-25 financial year to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, reflecting its mandate to build smart, resilient municipalities and strengthen traditional governance structures. Can somebody try to take care of the stakeholders? The service delivery environment remained challenging, with municipalities facing financial strain, infrastructure backlogs, and governance weaknesses. However, the department intensified its support through the district development model and back to basic program, targeting municipalities with poor audit outcome and service delivery failures. Key achievement included the rollout of governance capacity building programs across all 5 districts, the development of integrated service delivery plans aligned with provincial priorities, and the facilitation of traditional council functionality assessment. The department also advanced its digital governance agenda by piloting smart municipal dashboard in 3 municipalities. Financially, the department received a budget allocation of approximately 1.2 billion and achieved an expenditure rate of 96.8%, with underspending attributed to delays in infrastructure grant disbursement and procurement bottlenecks. The Auditor General issued an unqualified audit opinion commending improvement in financial control, but noting concerns around performance reporting and irregular expenditure, which totaled 87 million. The department's performance against predetermined objectives showed a 78% achievement rate, with notable progress in disaster management, readiness, and traditional leadership support. Risks identified included a weak municipal revenue collection, delayed infrastructure implementation, and limited coordination between spheres of government. Mitigation strategies involved strengthening intergovernmental forums, enhancing municipal finance recovery plans, and deploying technical support teams to prioritize municipalities. The department also committed to finalizing the provincial disaster management framework and accelerating the implementation of the traditional leadership governance protocols. For its oversight role, the Portfolio Committee will monitor the integration of the district development plans into municipal IDPs, track progress on infrastructure grant utilization, and ensure accountability for irregular expenditure. Furthermore, scrutiny should be applied to municipalities with repeat audit findings and those under Section 139 interventions. The committee may also consider requesting quarterly updates on the department digital governance initiatives and traditional council performance metrics to support evidence-based oversight and strategic alignment with provincial development goals. So sila namhlanje ngoba i-department ye-CoGTA inikezwe imali, in short, i-legislature basitshela ukuthi bazoyenzani. So namhlanje sizokhulumisana nabo, sizobheka ukuthi ingaba bazenzile zonke lezi zinto bathe bazozenza. Refano go etsa sure gore department ya CoGTA e rona re le Gauteng Provincial Legislature re berekisana le lona, re ba file budget ba re boleletse hore ba tlo etsa ntho tse itseng ba tla bua ka tsone re tlo bona gore a e ka ba di editse ntho tseo ntho tse ne ke di hlalosa mo ke go highlighta fela some of the things tse ba reng ba di editse as such. So basically that's the purpose of our meeting today. I know, as I said, the MEC was supposed to be here, but the HOD would be here. In case we reach that stage, MEC as officially, I think for me, what's more important will be Lona the stakeholders, because ke Lona ba tshwantse le kwale kepe e leng teng. Re ka re dilo di mo, kgante hadimo. You will find it from yourselves because you coming from communities and and then they will help us to improve as such going forward. So Ralamogela as such in this particular meeting. Can we then move to item 6, which is the AGs? I don't know AG who's going to lead us. You will introduce yourself as you take the podium. Ntombi. Thank you very much. Take us through.
Good morning, Chair, and the honorable members, the HOD, also members of the community. My name is Msizi Mavundla. I am the Deputy Business Unit Leader here in the Gauteng Business Unit. With me, I have Sindisiwe Zama, who is the Senior Manager responsible for CoGTA, and also with Ilza Marie, who is our Stakeholder Liaison Manager. Chair and honorable members, ours is to share the audit outcomes based on the audit that we performed for the year ended 30th June. For the year ended March 2025, we finalized the audit in the 31st of July. Chair, in our assessment, before I hand over to Zama to present the outcome, in our assessment, we confirmed that the department has performed in terms of the mandates. And we'd like to take the opportunity and also congratulate the department for achieving a clean audit. They've been doing so for the past a couple of years. It's longer than 3 years. It's a remarkable achievement. It signifies that there are basic internal controls in the environment. It also signifies that the department is able to account for every money that they are spending. It also signifies that there's a high level of appetite and awareness from the department's point of view when you look at compliance with the laws and regulation, and also that they are able to report on their planned targets. What we've been challenging the department from our side is that if you look at the outcome, the question that has to be asked is whether or not this outcome resonates with the lived realities of the communities outside there. The department is having a huge mandate to influence a local government, and we all know that from a local government point of view, there are challenges, as you've alluded, Chair, around the achievement of targets, which tells the story of service delivery that is a concern in the environment. We've got challenges around your high regular expenditure, where also there is lack of consequence management. You've spoken again, Chair, about the issue of infrastructure delivery, which is really which is a challenge from local government point of view. If there's one thing that we walk out of here, we've achieved from our side, and it's a question that we are posing to the members, is that what is it that we're going to do differently in terms of the Section 131 report? You know, as the municipalities submit this report to the legislature and they submit other reports to the legislature, what is it that we're going to do to make sure that we can deal with these challenges? The challenges, as mentioned, the challenges of service delivery failures, your lack of consequence management, and the poor delivery of infrastructure, Chair. You've spoken about the initiatives that the department has put in place around the implementation of the DDM, piloting the dashboard, making sure that financial recovery plans are implemented. But if these initiatives are not monitored, achievement thereof may not happen. So, Chair, that's the challenge that we are putting to the committee to make sure that as we finalize local government, these things can be prioritized. I'll hand over to Cindy to do the presentation, Chair. Thank you.
Before that, can you help us with that section?
The 131 report.
Morning, Chair, members of the committee, management, and the community present. My name is Cindy Zama. I was the engagement manager on the audit of CoGTA. In the outcomes of the department in the current year, as mentioned by MCZ, the department received a clean audit, which is then highlighting that the department has maintained an effective system of internal controls, which was able to identify, prevent, detect, and correct any weaknesses that are identified. As well, we'd like to highlight the improvement that we did see in performance information when compared to last year, as the department did have material misstatements when it comes to reporting of performance of information. The department is also encouraged to continue strengthening its role in municipalities, as highlighted when we compared the support that they are providing to the municipality compared to the impact that we see in terms of service delivery. There's a disjuncture in terms of service delivery that we are seeing in municipalities. When we looked at compliance, we did not identify any findings there. However, we'd like to highlight the increase of irregular expenditure that we saw in the environment, and we encourage that the department strengthen controls in that area such that it does not impact the outcomes in the future. This is what we will continue to follow up next year when we come back for 2026 audits. When we look into comparison with the previous years, the department has maintained the clean audits, as we did not identify any material misstatements. However, we did see a material underspending of the fund. This is also due to the non-achievement, as the department did not achieve all its targets. This was mainly due to the indicator relating to the energy projects, where the department had to roll over the funds to 2026, as they were not able to complete the phase 2 projects for energy. And then when we look into party, which is institutional integrity, performance, transparency, and accountability, this is what we focus on in terms of the department shifting its culture where we highlight the achievements of the department and its impacts into the local governance space. So when we look at the performance, as mentioned before, the department achieved a clean audit, meaning that they were transparent in reporting their finances and their performance achievement. In terms of our audit, we audited 2 programs, which is program 3 and 2. In terms of the program 3, the department was able to achieve its targets. However, as mentioned with the other program, is that the non-achievement is mainly due to the energy projects, which was not achieved. And then we encourage the department in terms of its indicators to be more output-driven, in such that the support that they are providing to municipality is able to translate to the outcome that we are seeing in the municipal space. Though the department is achieving in the area of the support, however, when you look at the local space, you'll find that the municipalities are still struggling with UIFW, and as well the audit outcomes are not all positive. And as well with the infrastructure issues and service delivery issues that we are seeing in the local space. In terms of accountability, there were no material findings identified with laws and regulations. However, there is an irregular expenditure which is under assessment, which we will follow up on the next audit. When we look into transparency, the department has sustained the clean audit, and there were no material misstatements in performance information. When it comes to institutional integrity as well, the department is commendable, as we did not identify any interest or conflict of interest in the SCM space. So in terms of the compliance with legislation, there were no material misstatements. However, we did identify non-compliance, which may result into non-compliance with Treasury Regulation 16A of the PFMA. This is where the department revised terms of reference without involvement of the bid specification committee. So this is the area that management needs to focus on, in such that the department does not regress in terms of its audit outcomes. When we look into the predetermined objectives, as mentioned, in terms of program 2, the department achieved all of its targets, and there were no material findings identified in that area. And in terms of program 3, which is the development and planning for audits, the department did not achieve 8 out of the 19 indicators, which mostly related to energy. In terms of other matters, in terms of the commitments made by the HOD and MEC, it was in terms of the irregular expenditure that was identified, that the HOD committed that the tender will be cancelled and re-advertised in such that the irregular expenditure is prevented in the future, and as well to report on quarterly basis on how the department is addressing the findings that were identified during the audits. and as well looking into the revision of the indicators of performance information to reflect the department's support and coordination role. And as well approval of the organizational structure, as there were vacancies, high vacancy rates that was identified in the department. The MEC committed to hold the HOD accountable in implementing the recommendations emanating from the 2025 audit outcomes, and as well to ensure that the prior year recommendations that are still in progress, that they are finalized, especially in terms of the enhancement of Section 47 and Section 131 reports to include follow-up actions where recommendations have not been implemented by municipalities. As well, through the IGR process, to improve CoGTA collaboration with DID in the municipal space to tackle issues of infrastructure in the province. And as well, with its legislated powers to initiate consequence management for municipalities. And as well to fast track the MOAs of energy projects with municipalities to ensure the safeguarding of the assets that are transferred to the municipalities. Then in terms of the recommendation to the committee is to hold the HOD and MEC accountable in terms of the commitments that they had made, and as well to look into the enhancement of Section 131 and 47 reports in terms of the matters that municipalities are struggling with and the recommendations and the implementation thereof relating to service delivery issues and audit outcomes in the local governance space. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there any addition from yourselves? Okay. Honorable members, it's your time. Questions, comments, clarifications, whatever you want to raise. Member Msimang will be number one. Who else wants to speak on this matter? Or shall I say all of you must speak? Okay. Member Msimang, open up for us.
Well, thank you very much, Chair, and once again, good morning to Badudi and to the AG's office. The AG's opens up by stating something that is very important, and the HOD would know, we have raised this time and time again. The level of expenditure versus what is felt on the ground is something that is very much important, because we can't keep spending money year in, year out, and municipalities keep falling apart year in, year out. And the coordination thereof is not something that is yielding fruits. I mean, some of the municipalities are getting worse and worse. In fact, if I tell you now that most of the municipalities across Gauteng are technically bankrupt or actually are not functional. You go to, when was the last one that we went to in Merafong? Merafong is, you know, it's a problem. They are losing much more money than they will be able to then, get in. Therefore, it means that every year the debt is going to be ballooning, and this is something that needs to then be addressed. You go to Mfuleni, same thing. You go to a number of, actually almost all the municipalities. Now, the question that I would then have as a starter is to then say, in the management letter that you then write, are these things then picked up, written to the HOD? What is then the response that you get in terms of what is going to be done in order to then assist? Because it's one of the pillars to then say, one of the assistance that is supposed to be giving to municipalities is aiding them in terms of being financially sustainable. And municipalities, I mean, you yourselves would know, are becoming more and more unsustainable. And then that is a problem. What kind of programs do you then look at in terms of what they then report to you as things that they say they will then do in the years that will come in order to then correct this? Because at the provincial level, you can then have a clean audit. But at the municipal level, where service delivery is supposed to be taking place, if these things don't then translate to then improvement in that, then you're going to have a problem that you know we're not really resolving the challenge that is, I'm sure, has brought so many of these people here today. You ask an important question, and I think we are going to need as a committee to grapple with is what is it that we should be asking for as oversight committee, should be asking for of the department itself. Before it even gets to you, we should be asking them what are you know, those things that are going to do. But this is why I'm asking you, what is in that management letter? I know we don't get privy to the management letter, but what are the things that you yourselves have highlighted that we're going to need to then look into so that we are able to then ask relevant questions in advance, that by the time you do the next audit, we can at least have known that these are some of the things that would have been looked at. So I would leave it at there for now, Chair, but I want to congratulate the HOD, you know, for the work that is done. I know we always fight about, you know, ensuring that the money that is being spent is felt by the people on the ground. But, and I know that this is a bit tricky, that it doesn't really rely solely on you. Municipalities have to rely on quite a number of you know, other departments to then do certain things. Infrastructure is one of those. The fact that you have municipalities that are losing 60% of their water, the fact that ESCOM is charging people, is charging municipalities what the municipalities will not be able to then retrieve. You know, rainwater is doing the same. Then it means that municipalities are then not able to then be financially sustainable. But there's also other issues there. There's issues not only around financial management, but there's issues around infrastructure management and project management around those particular issues as well that we're going to need to then look into. And perhaps these are some of the things that you might then say, are these things being addressed? Because I can tell you right now, if you don't address the issue of infrastructure, no matter what you then do to try and be financially prudent, it's not going to help, because you're still going to continue to bleed money as you go. So I think these are some of the things that we would want to then hear from you. Are you then raising these things in the management letter? What are those things that you then feel that we should be looking at, that we can then look at going forward? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Once more, let me check any member. Thank you very much. I seated here just to build on the point that my colleague, Member Msimango, has raised, which I agree largely with the input that you've made. I mean, if I come from the ward, like our stakeholders are, and then I hear this good story about local government, the first question I'm going to ask myself, bakhuluma ngani labantu? Because where I am, how we perceive municipalities and the performance of municipalities, it's different than we get here. You can talk about the audit outcomes themselves. So what we know there is we're getting adverse audit outcomes. That's what we're living with in the particular ward. And then you invite me here, and then I hear this good story. What is the point that I'm making? The point that I'm making is HOD and everybody is. Are we seated here being happy that we've been sustaining, as a department responsible for local municipalities, who are sustaining clean audit? I mean, I was more impressed that you don't even have MIs, material irregularities, because if you go through the reports of municipalities, just on that point, MI only, problems. And if you look at issues of compliance, the department is complying and all of those kind of things. But if you go to municipalities, that's where the problem is. Compliance is a big issue and so on. So what's the issue that I'm raising? The issue that I'm raising is, are we not in a position to drive the department to an extent that it is able to ensure that it impacts positively to municipalities and turn them around in terms of their audit outcome? So because from where I am, it's like you have a department that is experienced, that is able to sustain these kind of things. but these things get spoiled by where the issues are necessarily. So can't we, what can be done? I know there's support to municipalities, but what can be done? Because if I look at the years that the department has been able to sustain its audit outcome, surely there's something called best practices. Would municipalities not have learned one or two things that would improve their situation? What is it that is making it difficult for municipalities to learn from their own head of the department? Because you are a head of the department in a sense. What is it? Is it the department reluctancy or municipalities? What do you see, particularly as the AG there? On the issue that that was raised on the management letter, perhaps one of the things we can consider is, before we can even engage the department, we can have a session with the AG where you take us into details, bringing even the management letter so that we can have a better understanding of the insights there. And that can help us, as the member Msimang would have said, to develop relevant questions when we deal with the department itself. We have agreed that we are going to ensure that we visit all the municipalities, so that when we engage all those municipalities, we were able to, because the devil is in the detail, and the detail in this regard is that the management letter. I'm saying maybe let's make that consideration, that the portfolio committee and yourself as AG, before we unfold our process, we can have that engagement where you're taking us on those issues. The last point would be around infrastructure rollout, infrastructure maintenance, and infrastructure development. I think we need to come up with concrete recommendations that are going to be felt on the ground insofar as this is concerned, because this impacts on communities immediately. I mean, I was saying to somebody, whether you've got a car or not, you're going to use that road which has many, many potholes. Either through a taxi, you feel the pain. Some people have got even a difficulty to enter their yards because of these potholes. If it does rain, it's worse. You don't know whether to leave your car or what must you do. You can't even leave your yard, and all of those kind of things. And this has to do largely with infrastructure matters that you are raising, but at the core of it, infrastructure maintenance, which goes with the issues of financial sustainability. Can't we force municipalities to budget for infrastructure maintenance or maintenance generally? Because part of the problem is that many of these municipalities are not budgeting for maintenance. And I'm sure the standards that are there, that they should be following, but they are not following those particular standards. I will leave it there and give it to yourself to make your comments, and I'm sure we will engage more with the department after your presentation as such. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I'll start with the easy one. You know, we welcome the session to brief the committee in terms of what we find. We may not bring the management report, but we lift some of the things that are already there in the management report. And sitting here, I was pleased with the questions that, you know, they are linked between the chair and the member there. And one of the thing that we've been speaking about in the office is around the accountability ecosystem, where we looked at the role players in the entire value chain. If we sit back here and we ask ourselves the question that says, how do we make sure that whatever the department does has impact? Because that's the biggest question that has been asked. So, and if you have to ask the question, is that you have to look at where do we measure what the department has done, and we only measure that coming from the annual performance report. The annual performance report comes from what is planned at the beginning of the period, which is in the plans, the annual plans. Where do the annual plans start? My understanding, the department will put them up. They are compiled. They say we are going to do X, Y, Z, and those plans they end up again back in this committee, Chair, if I'm not mistaken, again to be interrogated, to be looked at whether those plans, are realistic, aligned to the department's mandate and so forth, and then they're tabled and then approved as the plan. So if one looks at the accountability ecosystem point of view, saying we all have a role to play, our plea and the engagement that we've had with the department was, if we look at your constitutional mandate, what is it that you can do if a municipality is not performing? HOD, I hope I won't put you in trouble on what answer this one. One of the as we were engaging, it was a hoo-ha moment where we all said to ourselves, does the department have teeth, to go to a municipality like Merafong and say, you are not delivering in terms of your mandate? The question of teeth was the biggest one. And after we've all sat in the table, we all agree that the department has the powers or has the teeth to make the right type of influence. So in answering the first question, member, we've had conversation with the department in terms of the issues of their targets. We've had conversation where we even made an example with one of the targets. It was around the reduction of irregular expenditure, where we said in our assessment, if you look at that target, now in the annual performance report, that target is achieved. But what is measured on that target is around the support they've provided to the municipality to assist them to reduce the irregular expenditure. Support was provided. We audited it, and we did find that the support that is supposed to be provided, it is there. They went into the municipalities, they supported those targeted municipalities to deal with that. But the question is, did it reduce the regular expenditure? So the disjuncture we've been speaking about in terms of the target is that. So if I have to sum up a chair as I give to Cindy, is that we believe that as we come in with our value add exercises, we all have the role to play to make sure that as we look at the plan the department's put in, the question we ask ourselves is that you say you're going to do this, what is the impact, what is the achievement, what is the type of action that you're going to perform to achieve this target? But if the type of action is holding a session like this, and you say, let me go back where you say, our plan, our target is to reduce the regular expenditure, but to do that, we're going to hold a session like this. Will it get to us achieving that? The answer, my knowledge, Chair, no, it won't. Because this means there's some systematic issues that you must go into the environment and deal with in order to reduce the irregular expenditure. So from our side, we've had those engagement. The department, I believe, based on the engagements we've been having year on year, the department is taking the right steps also to get to that point where, as they put in their performance targets, they can craft performance targets that are impactful in order to get us to where we are. I said I was conclusion, but now I'm going back to the 131. The 131 report, the MFMA 131. MFMA 131 says the municipalities must put in action plans in terms of how they are going to deal with Auditors General's findings. I can tell you, Chair, that those action plans are put, in our assessment, those action plans are put in and year out in terms of how they are going to deal with our findings. But year in and year out, we issue the very same findings. And the question is why? And our recommendation has been those reports or those actions that are submitted by the municipality to the legislature must be interrogated to say, last year you told us that you're going to make sure there's compliance with supply chain management, but you are still coming back, you are not complying with supply chain management. Going back that in the ecosystem, we all have the role to play. Those who must hold officials accountable must do that. Ours is to also to raise that. Chair, let me allow Cindy. She'll then add.
Thanks, Msizi. I think Msizi covered everything. The biggest issue that we identify is the measure that the department puts in place in terms of assessing the supports that they give to municipalities. Looking at the programs that we did audit, it is basically looking into the municipal space, which is program 2 and 3, the local government and development and planning. So the department, if you look at the indicators that they have in place, it is looking into all the issues that we are seeing in the municipal space. However, because the indicators measure the inputs, which is the supports that they give to municipalities, the biggest question that management should ask themselves is a so what question. After we've provided this supports, what is the outcome? What is the impact on the citizen on the ground? Which is what is not transpiring when you look at that. Which is why is where we emphasize consequence management. When the department tables the section 131 and section 41 to the legislature, how is the monitoring done thereof? Year in and year out, there are recommendations provided by the department. However, when the accounting officers do not implement those recommendations, what happens next? So that's the biggest issue that we have identified, because even when we go in the municipal space and we audit, we're also seeing the issues that are raised in these reports. However, nothing happens after, which the most emphasis then is consequence management. How does then management collaborate with accounting officers at the municipal space in such that these recommendations are implemented? The member spoke about ESCOM and water issues and revenue. There are those indicators in the department. You'll see the support that is being provided, but is that support enough? But if the department is not monitoring what's the impact of the support they are providing, those issues will always come up. So the biggest emphasis is how to then monitor and measure that support. Because if there's no measure, then you wouldn't know if it's working or not. Once you know what works, what doesn't work, that is when we will then see the impact or things changing in the municipal space.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I can tell you for free that part of the biggest problem that is there is that the councillors will really need our support to ensure that they play an oversight role and ensure implementation of the action plans. Part of my own experience is that the officials in the municipalities have mastered how to respond to the AGs in such a way that at the end there will not be accountability. They know. I always say they can just stand there under the tree and write the action plan, take it to council. It's a resolution, there's little you can do about it. But if you look at it deeper, it's not necessarily responding to issues. That is why year in, year out, you'll raise the same issues as such. Now, one of the questions I always ask myself is that which law says we cannot see the management letter. I don't know, maybe you'll educate me in that session that we're going to have. Because I asked someone one day, he says to me, you'll open up a can of worms. Up until today, I still want somebody to explain me what that can of worms is all about. Maybe that's what we need, to open up the can of worms. I don't know. But yeah, let's talk about it. But I think from a department perspective, the issues of the action plans, one way or the other, should be part of the ecosystem of the accountability. One way or the other, because we've got to know, so that when we engage those municipalities, we engage them on things that they know and on things that they committed themselves in, but they are not doing them. But sometimes to make just a general statement is not really helpful, particularly that we took a decision as this portfolio committee to go per municipality. That is going to help us. So that when we leave there, we know what are the issues that form part of this ecosystem of our accountability as such. I think insofar as the AG's briefing, we'll leave it there with a commitment that we've got to have this session where we're dealing on how best we can deal with the issues of management letter and the issues of the action plans. Thank you. Come in, Member Msimang.
Thank you very much. I just want us, maybe the HOD and the coordinators will need to then coordinate a session with yourselves. Maybe in one of our sessions where we can sit down and then maybe, as you said, raise some of the issues that you would have raised in the management letter. Because for me, it's not an issue of trying to catch the HOD or the department out, but is to then say, these are the things that you would have committed to the AG in terms of rectifying some of the things going forward. Instead of waiting for next year's audit outcomes, can we then start looking at them on a month-to-month basis as an example, or on a quarterly basis? Where are you in terms of dealing with this? Where are you in terms of dealing with that? And we can take it down, further down to the council level, Chair, to then say, if we said that we will deal with the issue of rainwater or with ESCOM at a municipal level, go to the municipalities as we normally do, and then go and sit there and say, this is what CoGTA is doing with you, plus you tell us how is this now taken down in terms of what you are doing on the ground. Because I can tell you right now, that if we're not going to do anything, Johannesburg by next year this time, half of Johannesburg won't have water. Half of Johannesburg won't have water. Merafo, fact of the matter is that the municipalities don't even have a blueprint of what infrastructure is underground. So you don't know what you have underground. How do you know what needs to be fixed? Mfuleni is losing 60+% of its water. So the municipality is paying for water that it doesn't know where it goes. And then the people are then being charged for that. So these are things that once we have said, and we've said with you, and you say these are the issues, and then we sit with the HOD to then say this is what we're providing at the municipal level, we can then go down and say, well, the HODs and the department is meeting with you, what does it mean? And do those things really get to be planned? And this is something that we did take up, and I wanted the MEC to be here because he made that commitment, and this is something that I want to thank him for. But to then see it turn into action and not just wait. To then say, if we're talking about the infrastructure at the municipal level, are we holding the municipal managers and whoever is there to these things? Because to then say, no, we're going to fix the pipes for water, and yet you still see trucks that are delivering water, people putting buckets on their heads. It's not a nice thing. And we might be saying it's got nothing to do with the AG, but everything has to do with how money gets to be spent at the municipal level, and how do we then hold the people to then account for that. So I'm looking forward to that session. What I was trying to get to, Chair, is that perhaps what you might need to then do, and maybe Sizwe and the HOD, or between the coordinators, is how do we then put that meeting to happen perhaps as soon as possible. That we have that meeting before the end of the year, at least we can then start planning to then say in the next cycle, when we then start saying we are going to then start visiting municipalities again, we can be armed with this information to then say, this is what the HOD is saying the department is doing. Now let's go drill down and see if indeed it's happening. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Particularly that would be, I'm not downplaying the districts, but particularly that we are going to these metros, because if we can sort out the metros, I have a sense that it will be easy to deal with the districts as such. So as we go to those metros, this process should have taken place. I know that you requested that at some point, once you're done, we must allow you to leave, because you've got other commitments. As and when you're ready to can do that, you can silently do that, because we have accepted that request. But thank you very much. We're now going to move, honorable members. After those engagement, we're now going to move to the department itself. I'm noting that according to this, the MEC would have said maybe he will be here at this particular point. And I don't know whether HOD, do we know? Okay. On that score, we're noting that part, and if we can and try to encourage that when we have an arrangement, we have an arrangement. Because as far as I know, the MEC would have confirmed that he would be here. And at some point, somebody was telling me that he's at the gate. So I'm not sure whether he turned at the gate to the education, and what does that mean? Which gate? Maybe it was the education, where education is. So I took it that it's in, but the point I'm making on a serious note, that when we have get an appointment, we have an appointment. I think that's a message that we should send back to the MEC. When we have an appointment, we have an appointment. We will then request the HOD to lead us. You might want to introduce some of your team members, yes? And then you can lead us as to how we're going to present this item before us. Thank you very much, HOD.
Honorable Chair, good morning. Let me also greet all the members and all the members in the community that is in attendance today. Chair, I am supported from CoGTA by the CFO that is right next to me, and the DDG for local governance. Also all the chief directors in CoGTA are here, but they are sitting in various areas, Chair. It looks like they're hiding, so maybe we must ask them to come to the front. But Chair, thank you very much. Chair, the presentation from CoGTA, we can say, Chair, that the report from the AG is a true reflection of the performance of CoGTA. The report from the AG also signifies some of the areas that we, through our own assessment, have identified in CoGTA that we need to focus on. And Chair, the AG have reiterated that CoGTA achieved a clean audit outcome. And whilst as CoGTA we are proud of that, I have made a statement in previous meetings, even in the Finance Committee, that as CoGTA we will only say we are fully sustainable, fully functional, if we can at least get all municipalities to achieve unqualified audit outcomes. But we also know, Chair, a good audit outcome is not necessarily a reflection of what's happening on the ground. You want to achieve a clean audit outcome, or at least unqualified, but you do not want to return money to the national fiscus. It's money that you do not need to collect revenue for, and you want to make sure that your infrastructure planning is fully up to date and you can spend monies efficiently and effectively, but then also economically. Chair, the report from CoGTA will highlight a few key priority areas if we go to slide 3. And in essence, in line with the directives of the administration, we will be focusing on service delivery, revenue, financial management and development, but then also functional municipalities, what the department has done and what are the support mechanisms that we have put in place to support municipalities. And Chair, the members were at pains in the past asking about the support of CoGTA. The AG was also at pains with that. But Chair, the one thing that we must always recognize, and I'm at pains to explain that to our municipalities, once CoGTA is leaving to go into another municipality where we have built capacity, we have supported them, it is that responsibility of the municipal manager to ensure that the work that we have done, the capacity that we have built, is institutionalized in the municipality. And we should allow them to report back to us. So, Chair, on the next slide, we're just talking a little bit about the executive summary, and I want to stand still on some of the areas which I believe is critical and it forms a fundamental part of the work of CoGTA. The first part is revenue collection and governance. Chair, municipalities, if they want to at least get an unqualified report, they need to ensure that the collection of revenue is up to scratch. All households and businesses are metered, the meter readings and the billing system is correct, and you can account for each and every household. I think that's the very first part. So that will talk to your completeness of revenue. Then there's a part that deals with the collection of revenue. We have asked municipalities to look at the model that has been adopted in Tshwane, that there is a very specific approach dealing with revenue collection. You look at your high-paying wards, you make sure that you render and maintain services, but then also in the other wards where they do not really pay, you render services, but then you encourage them to pay. And you also put measures in place where you have old debt that you have not received for a number of years, that you make means with the communities that if you pay 30% up front, you will be asked to pay off 20%, the 50% is written off. But of course, it's a process that needs to go through a municipal council, but we have given various directives in that. But what we have found with your revenue collection, Chair, the very first point of call is you need to know who your customers is. And the municipalities do not have accurate data when it comes to that. So a lot of work goes into that, a lot of funding from CoGTA goes into that. Chair, from an IGR perspective, the pronouncements made by the MEC on dealing with the IGR structure on water, that structure is fully functional. The structure on energy is fully functional, and the various structures where we engage directly with executive mayors are also fully functional. Chair, what we have found is, now that we have brought on board Rand Water, we have brought on board Johannesburg Water, we get a sense on a weekly basis of what's the status of supply. You still have a number of communities without water. And that is a report that we do get on a weekly basis. But we believe that from an IGR perspective, you can find a way of bringing all parties together so that we get to a sense of the actual status of where the municipality are. Chair, from an integrated development planning perspective, we are putting a lot of measures in place to monitor municipalities on their IDPs. But we know, Chair, the IDP is a dream. But the IDP should also be a document that outlines the priorities of the municipality so that you can deliver services. And the IDPs are there. CoGTA has advised that all of them should at least have the CBD revitalization. They need to improve infrastructure delivery. We need to monitor and ring fence funding from infrastructure delivery for maintenance and upgrades. But what happens when the budgets are approved is a different story. Chair, when it comes to spatial planning, we know as Gauteng, we have serious challenges with spatial planning, but also our municipalities need more and more support when it comes to planning. The particular function in relation to approval of building plans, the value proposition and the value chain towards an approval of a plan and the systems and processes that you must follow. Clearly, that particular area has been eroded and CoGTA has to support in that area. We also believe, Chair, that with the support of the Department of Infrastructure Development, the support of CoGTA, we can put in some good systems in place to support the municipalities. But of course, the municipality must also ensure that they build that particular capacity in the municipality. And we have given municipalities not free rein, Chair, but we have given them an opportunity to structure their organization in a manner that would respond to service delivery needs and not just fill posts willy-nilly, because you do not have the funding to completely fill your organizational structure. And then, Chair, of course, with the traditional institutional management, that process has now been finalized. We have concluded the 2 traditional leaders. We met with the Premier last week. The Premier needs to sign off those letters, but the Premier have also asked that we invite the Chair of the Commission, and we need to have a meeting with all the members that appeared before the Commission so that we can outline what the decisions were. And we have only come to the conclusion that we have 2 traditional leaders in Gauteng. Chair, just moving on quickly on to the internal environment, I think as a department we are still struggling with the number of vacant positions, and this is primarily because of the poor fiscal conditions, Chair. Last year we had an organizational structure finalized, but due to the compulsory budget cuts, we had to review the structure again. So at this stage, we still have below 50% SMS level people, that's the women, and we are working with the provincial treasury to see concurrence, but then also ensure that we monitor our staff within the confines of the available budget. We are currently appearing before the provincial treasury, and we are putting a lot of matters forward. Chair, for instance, looking at infrastructure delivery, the water solution that deals with water leaks has been put forward as a major enabler for CoGTA. The data management system to deal with municipal management and support has been a key issue, and the same applies to the CBD revitalization process. Treasury have asked us the question, is CoGTA supporting municipalities or are we taking over municipalities? Because the funding that we request gives a sense that we want to intervene and decisively fund that particular functions, and they have advised against those. So we have made our proposals, all the discussions that we had with the portfolio committee, even the early detection of the disaster management in Gauteng. We know we are prone to floods and prone to fires, but that early detection system that we want to work with the CSIR, it has also been put forward to the Treasury for funding, but we know the fiscal conditions. But that was one of the questions that the provincial Treasury is asking. Chair, the next slide just gives you a high-level sense of the status of vacancies. And Chair, you can clearly see we are putting a lot of austerity measures in place, and I believe it should give municipalities a sense of how they need to manage the organization. It's not ideal. We need a lot of support. We need a lot of other technical skills to support municipalities. But Chair, it will depend where the biggest risk lie. You will see by the time we go to the questions that was posed to the department, the key area of our work where we need to change our delivery machinery is how we deal with legal and labor matters, because that is money in the municipality that can go to service delivery that otherwise now go to attorneys and law firms, and it's an area that we need to clamp down on. Chair, that's just on a high level on the administration side. I want to hand over to the CFO to take us quickly through the financial performance. I will then come back with a non-financial performance, the report of the AG, just from our side, and the areas that we need to improve, Chair, if you'll allow.
Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Chair, honorable members, and members of the community. I will just go through most of what I'll be talking to. AG has already alluded to, but I'll just go to slide number 19. I'll talk to the issues of the audit outcome, which will be a repetition. If I could just go to slide number 19. Basically, the audit outcome, as it has been indicated, it's a clean audit outcome. We have no material findings on performance information, no material findings on compliance with laws and legislations,
no material findings on internal controls, and of course our underspending, as we indicated, it's at 6% due to the energy project. On the issues of the governance structure, all our governance.
Excuse me, our presentation and yours, they're not corresponding. Page 19 speaks about appointment of senior managers. I don't know what I think.
This is my presentation actually that I've sent. Okay. Okay, my apologies then.
How do you want us to? How do you want us to deal with it quickly? It will be from 10 to.
Chair, as the CFO indicated and as the Chair reported earlier in his opening remarks, our budget was just over $1 billion and our overall expenditure was 953 million. That leaves us with a under expenditure of 6%. That is tantamount to about 63 million. And that is on slide 10, Chair. If we look at all the programs, Chair, all the programs essentially have spent 100% of the budget, but the particular area that's of concern is your development planning area, and that particular area houses the energy project. And this is one of the areas, Chair, in the period under review, despite the significant inroads that we have made with ward committees engaging with the different wards, we have just felt that the number of community protests during the implementation of the energy project have quite escalated. And that was the primary reason for some of the delays. So, Chair, and then on the next slide, we're just giving you a breakdown of the economic classification as we have put that to the committee. And that is just to give all the numbers in the different areas. You can clearly see, Chair, that most of your areas was at 100%. Except for the part that deals with development and planning. And as we go into the non-financial performance, we'll just get into a little bit of detail in terms of where we are with it. Chair, on the next slide, you can see that the goods and services budget has also been spent, but then the underspending is also relating to your energy project, and that has been well documented. Chair, let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, so Chair, when I get to the non-financial performance, I will explain a little bit on some of the areas, particularly on the energy project, where we are. On the next slide, we outlining where we are in terms of the administration program and the local governance program, the development planning program, but also traditional institutional management. Program 2 and Program 4 has achieved all the targets. Program 1 has achieved only 78%, Chair, and that is primarily because of some of the internal matters. Employment of women at SMS position, the organizational structure and people with disabilities. We had a limited number of people that we appointed in the last financial year due to the austerity measures and due to the compulsory cost containment measures that were implemented. And under Program 3, your development planning, it's essentially the energy project. And we are just giving, on the next slide, sharing with the committee that 81% of the targets have been achieved and 19% has not been achieved. And Chair, from this next slide onwards, you now can see when we look at municipal financial support, where we talk about revenue management, if you want to do proper revenue collection, if your data is not cleansed, and if you don't have correct data, it means you cannot collect revenue. And that, by the time we start with our revenue management system, the issue of billing and data cleansing, development and review of the revenue enhancement strategy, the tariff model, but then also standard operating procedures. And those, Chair, just looking at those, you would expect that any municipality should have that as a basis. If they call CoGTA in, I would have expected them to say, can you assist us how to increase our revenue generation? Look at other methods, and that's where it is. But I think the very basis and the very basics of revenue collection is, to some extent, non-existent. And that is a serious challenge for CoGTA. Chair, under the next slide, under capacity development, you will know, Chair, the one question in one of the previous committee meetings was, why do we pick? Sometimes we support 5 municipalities, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 3, depending on the nature of support that we require to provide. And Chair, that is basically based on the limited funding that you have. And that funding, we are looking at a risk-based approach. Where there is a great need, we are looking at those municipalities. We are at pains, Chair. We know Member Msimanga was at pains to explain the money that we put into Mfuleni, the money that we're putting into Emerafong. Is it really reaching the people on the ground? The municipalities are still the same. What's next? Chair, what we believe what's next is we are pushing hard so that the special purpose vehicle in Mfuleni is underway. At least we receive now approval from the National Treasury, and the engagements that we had with both Merafong and Mfuleni and Rand West with Rand Water on the outstanding debt. Rand Water have also proposed that let's establish a special purpose vehicle in Merafong so that we can ring-fence revenue, and the revenue that we get from those particular water resources, we can actually plow it back into infrastructure delivery. So those are some of the initiatives that's underway. Chair, we must say that following the meeting that we had with the Select Committee, we were lambasted by the Select Committee on the work in Merafong. National is now fully on board. We have started a special project with National this morning. Water and sanitation, National CoGTA, National Human Settlements, and all the provincial departments are now forming the steering committee that comprises of all 3 spheres of government. And Chair, we have specifically taken MESA, the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency, onto that team, and GIFA, the Gauteng Infrastructure Financing Agency. They need to assist with project management in that area. We do not want funds to go into different areas where funds will be utilized for compensation, and it's not going into areas on the ground. So the agreement with National DG and with the Minister is that these 2 agencies needs to come on board and assist us with the technical work. And we also know, Chair, that the technical expertise in municipalities, in most cases, has been eroded. So we hope to make some significant inroads in there. This morning we were talking about how we can get access to the rehabilitation grant in the Department of Mineral Resources. The West Rand is a mining area, and the rehabilitation of the areas, the mines need to play a critical role, and the Department of Mineral Resources also, Chair. So at some point we can come and report to the committee on the details of the work plan, but I am very keen to establish this special purpose vehicle in Merafong as well, to be managed by Rand Water, so that we can gain a bit of traction when it comes to infrastructure delivery. Chair, on the next slide, we're just talking a little bit about the appointment of senior managers. Chair, we see a lot of non-compliance in the municipalities when it comes to compliance with the municipal staff regulations. We had one-on-one engagements with those municipalities that's affected, And there is also engagements with the MEC and the executive mayor. And those particular questions has been raised the last time. And in this case, we talk specifically about the Tshwane, the city of Ekurhuleni, and the city of Joburg. And to some extent, some of these issues has already been addressed. But the one-on-one engagements, Chair, making sure that we create awareness of the municipal staff regulations and what are those compliance criteria, forms a key part of the work of CoGTA. Chair, on infrastructure planning, I think as CoGTA, we would need much more support in that area to be provided to the municipalities. We have now gone to the stage that when municipalities prepare for funding requirements from national or from conditional grants, we assist them to prepare their business cases so that we have a bankable business case. We now even have the Gauteng Infrastructure Agency to support. But Chair, the money is now appropriated, but then we are lacking implementation. We have allowed MISA to continue with the Section B intervention in Mfuleni and all the other municipalities that has low capacity on infrastructure. We want to replicate that in those areas as well. But you know, Chair, it's not an area that we can take as CoGTA alone. It's, we need national CoGTA, we need provincial CoGTA, and we need the municipalities to commit. Because if they don't commit, you will just have delays in implementation. So it's an area that we need to focus on. But Chair, we also believe that the strengthening of the management of the municipal infrastructure grant has assisted with some improved spending. But I am a bit concerned about Q1 and Q2 in municipalities. Once the business case is done, you would have expected that municipalities have done a reasonable amount of planning. But your planning only kicks in towards Q2, your spending increases in Q3, and by the time you reach Q4, you're starting to close the books of the municipality, you prepare for audits, and then you ask for a rollover. And National Treasury is not keen on rollovers. National Treasury is not keen on not committing to a 50% from a municipality by mid-year. If you have not achieved 50%, the chances that you will lose that money is actually good. So it's an area that we need to pay a bit more attention to, and we say from a CoGTA side, we need to get a bit more involved in that. Chair, on the next slide, when it comes to the Energy Office, Chair, this is just one financial year where a number of things have gone wrong in municipalities when it comes to the energy project. And I'm saying it has gone wrong, Chair, because we planned in advance. We've conducted a full needs assessment of each of the municipalities. Of course, the needs and the amount of money that you have to service the needs, the amount of money is way below. Therefore, you need to prioritize where the key areas of focus needs to be. We identify that with the municipality. The ward councillors need to conduct engagements in the wards, and we then start with the business case. And once that process is finalized and Treasury approves, we start with implementation with our implementing agent, which is City Power. But then you will find that by the time you start working in the municipality, the communities are saying to us, no. The ward councillor have promised us that we're going to be part of this project. So all the service providers that CoGTA must appoint, you need to give us 10% of that. Then we say, but we have not even appointed the service provider. This is a government agency that is now working as part of CoGTA. These are some of the delays. In the questions that's posed by the committee correctly picked up areas in Ekurhuleni that have not benefited, areas in Lesedi that have not benefited. Why? Because towards the end of the financial year, when we had a number of protests, we had to reallocate that funding. So if we did not reallocate the funding to areas where we can work in, we would have had a rollover of about 120 million. And then it would have appeared that CoGTA have not delivered. So that is where the challenge are. Chair, there is one challenge that I believe that between CoGTA and City Power, we could have strengthened our controls a bit better. I believe we have cut the time frames for testing and commissioning too fine, and that is on the OCGTs, the open cycle gas turbines. But the program is now fully up and running. But Chair, as CoGTA, we said, when we asked for the refurbishment of the OCGTs, we said they must contribute 50 megawatts each. Whilst it's up and running, whilst the testing is underway, we will only make it 100% when we know that the 50% megawatts has been distributed to these particular communities. It's for that reason why that process of commissioning is still underway. But we have started our business case and our models for phase 3 of the energy project. Of course, these will be subject to availability of funds when the funding is made available through the Premier's Budget Council. Chair, under the governance area that we need to talk about, in that area we have the report of the AG, we have the report from gas, and we also have the report from the Audit Committee. Chair, the Audit Committee and gas have expressed satisfaction with the level of controls. They have expressed concern that we are not implementing audit action plans as expeditiously as possible. So that's an area of CoGTA that through our own assessment we need to focus on. That's just the internal audit operational plan and the work that has been done by gas on the audits. And Chair, we believe as a department we need to pay more attention to that. We were not at 50% at the end of Q2, and I believe that the same would apply to the audit action plans from the AG. But other than that, the Audit Committee is of the view that we need to focus on the effectiveness of controls, particularly integrity management. The AG raised that consequence management investigations that are not being finalized and that are being prolonged. And the same would apply to the audit of performance information in municipalities, Chair. Chair, the overview of the AG, let me not just go into the detail of that. I think the AG have explained that, and we have explained that the audit is clean on all material aspects. But Chair, we do not want to become complacent. We believe the management report issued by the AG is a yardstick for improvement for the department. And the issue of the irregular expenditure raised, I've made a commitment that CoGTA has awarded a tender. When the AG audited the tender process, AG flagged possible irregular expenditure. The matter was referred to the Provincial Treasury for an assessment, and whilst that process is underway, I have stopped any award under that contract, Chair, because if I do award under that contract and Treasury say we just agree with the AG, that's automatic irregular expenditure. So at this point, if Treasury says they agree with us, we will have to get Treasury and the AG together and decide on the way forward. But if we need to do goods and services under disaster management, we do it through a RFQ, Chair. We do not use that award because we are mindful of what the AG said. And that is part of the commitments that the AG asked me on a quarterly basis to report on, and I have recently reported to the AG on that. Chair, through our own assessment, we thought that we should share with the committee that whilst the audit is clean, from an administrative perspective, CoGTA is not squeaky clean. We need to work further on building smart cities to ensure that municipalities become functional and sustainable. There is work on the internal environment under human resources and finance, and the support to municipalities when it comes to technical skills is key. And then you will see the last 4 bullets talk specifically about the work on the energy project that we also need to focus on. But Chair, we believe if we get better support from the municipalities, from our councillors and our ward committees, the energy project should be seamless because it's a project that we fund. Municipalities identify where there are transformers that's not functional, where we need to have smart meters in, particularly our large power users, large water users, so that you can get accurate billing. We are ready to do that. But of course, Chair, we will look at the priority areas and of course in line with the available funding. Chair, that concludes the presentation. There are questions that was posed by the committee. I'll be guided by the committee how you would want to proceed with that, Chair.
I would indicate that let's proceed with them so that we could the totality of your report, and members can build, amongst others, from some of those questions. Because if we don't do that, we might repeat some of those by the time you're going to respond, only to find out those questions are there. So take us through them.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, the nature of the questions that was posed by the committee, we had to prepare it in the form of a Word document because the committee would also use that in the preparation of the report. Let me ask the team to just load the Word document, Chair, and we have responded to all the questions. I will not go into the detail of each and every question, but the first questions, Chair, was on the procurement of from women-owned enterprises, and we have indicated that the department have spent about 32 million from women-owned enterprises, and that constitute 46%. The same would apply to people with disabilities and township-based enterprises. And Chair, for the benefit of the committee, we have attached the detailed list of companies as part of Annexure A, and we have also attached it as part of Annexure B. So those are as part of the documents that were submitted to the committee. Chair, the committee was also asking questions on the learners with disabilities, the qualifying criteria, and what we have indicated, Chair. That program, we could only manage the number that we have indicated to the committee, and that's 10, but the program was oversubscribed. We received about 157 applications, and some of the key criteria is the applicants must be Gauteng residents, there must be proof of residence, there are also a verification process, and there must be a medical report indicating that the person is a person with a disability. Currently, we have spent about 556,000 on the project, but the cost per learner ranges from about 27,000 to 84,000. Chair, the areas that these learners are in ranges from your information communication technology, retail, construction, but then also agriculture. Chair, we want to build more on the work that we are doing with CTAS. We believe CTAS can fund more of these programs. We believe that CTAS can even fund internships in CoGTA and also internships in the municipalities. So we have started with the public service CETA, and we want to go to the water services CETA and some of the other CETAs to fund some of the technical skills that we have. And this is also key for our BBBE incubation program that is currently running, where we assist a number of our companies with tendering and procurement processes. The reason why most of these companies, Chair, do not get tenders is at the very first level of assessment of a tender. If you do not comply there, your application is then, or your tender is regarded as non-compliant. So if they don't get your new venture creation, you get experience and support in contract and tender management, they will never be able to compete for tenders in government. So those are key parts of the work, particularly with SMMEs. Chair, under Program 2, your local government area, if we can go beyond, the question was on fraud and corruption and the cases that we receive from the National Anti-Corruption Hotline. The question was which metro is the highest in terms of corruption cases. Of course, the city of Johannesburg is the epicenter, and there were not really any referrals from the other two metros. But Chair, what we pick up, and that is also throughout the local municipalities, once a person is alleging something and you're asking for supporting evidence, these supporting evidence are not coming to the fore. They often write to the minister compels the MEC to institute a Section 106 investigation, but to collect evidence is often a problem. So we probably need to think about how we can do a lead analysis of some of the allegations that we receive before it goes into a particular investigation process. Chair, on the next slide, we're just sharing with you under the city of Joburg some of the allegations that we have received. Mostly it's about SEM processes and it's about the JMPD. And under the districts, Chair, we have not received any disclosures under the districts, but there is one investigation outstanding that's in Sedibeng. That is a Section 106 investigation, and that relates to the late municipal manager in Sedibeng. That's the only investigation that's currently underway. Chair, I can say that we have received a lot of letters from the crisis committee in Merafong. They have written to the national minister. What we've picked up, Chair, is there appears to be a disjuncture in how the municipality report and what the municipality actually do on the ground. So I have decided from the CoGTA side, we're going to lead that intervention with the crisis committee so that we can explain to them what's the plans, where will we start to do some work, who's going to deliver on that project, what's the role of national, what will Merafong do with a limited budget in terms of capital expenditure, so that we can avoid a proliferation of these letters to the different structures, because it just creates a lot of challenges. And of course, Chair, sometimes you receive a letter saying that HOD, please intervene. The directed infrastructure has been suspended. I'm interested if the directed infrastructure is suspended. Has council been notified? Is there a council decision confirming the suspension? If that's the case, is there a letter to the MEC confirming that the person has been suspended, on what grounds, and we monitor the implementation of those. And within 3 months, they need to start with a disciplinary hearing. But if it doesn't follow that processes, Chair, then I can say council needs to, or the mayor or the MM needs to reconsider. But if it followed that processes, I should allow the municipality to take its course in terms of their investigations. Chair, then when you talk about municipal support, I have given a complete list, Chair, of the different support mechanisms that we have undertaken, specifically from municipal support, but then also from an infrastructure perspective, where we do infrastructure support, dealing with accurate billing and large power users, and there we highlight the municipalities that has the biggest challenges, Chair. So it's not a thumbs up where we decide that this is what we should focus on, but it's based on where the greatest need lie. We've also asked municipalities that they should write to CoGTA. If we have provided support, for instance, in revenue, but they feel their support would be better utilized under infrastructure, that's what we would do. But we are yet to receive that from municipalities. Bylaw enforcement is a serious challenge in municipalities, Chair. It's a serious challenge. Yesterday I had to meet with the Deputy Provincial Commissioner Kakana, with a team to see whether we need to re-establish the Prof Joints function that deals with abandoned buildings, but then also land invasions. We are currently sitting with projects by ESCOM that they cannot get off the ground because some of the reserves has been encroached. So it has becoming a serious problem, Chair, and it's an area that we need to focus on. Chair, under your experts that were placed in municipalities to provide legal and labour support, that tender on 2 occasions was non-responsive. You did receive companies that applies, but Chair, it is not the kind of expertise that you want. That is one of the delivery machinery in CoGTA that I want to review, Chair. Shouldn't we consider appointing legal experts and labour experts in CoGTA? And as opposed to supporting municipalities for 3 or 4 months, we have continuous support to them for the next 12 months. But my concern, Chair, is also that you will see in the report the number of areas that we have focused on in the different municipalities, the advice that we have given. But once the experts leave the municipality, they just go back, they reappoint, no consequence management takes place. So for me, there is a need to have that dedicated capacity to assist municipalities in terms of the support. Chair, under Program 3 development planning, that's the area where the members was asking about the Level 3 disaster management plan, a project that was also delayed. We plan to finalize that project in Q3 of the current financial year. And Chair, we also share with you the details of the municipalities that were supported with technical skills and also the nature of the technical skills. And Chair, you will see from item 2 onwards that's on the screen, under each of the municipalities, we provide the details of the support that we have provided. And if you look at those, Chair, 50% of those in each of the municipality, you expected that should be part of a policy management team in a particular municipality. So we have provided a very detailed account of the work that we have done. And Chair, we're also sharing with you the cost of the smart meters, the cost of the solar harness lights, and the cost of the OCGTs and the microgrids. Chair, the question from the Portfolio Committee on Makausi is one of the challenges that we have experienced with the energy project. We have developed a microgrid for the Amarasta informal settlements, but what we have realized with the Makausi informal settlement in Ekurhuleni is in 2016, that particular area consisted of 9,153 households. But 50% of that area is area that you cannot develop, and it's area that it's part of another reserve. So it means that if we're going to spend any additional money in Makausi, it means it could be deemed as fruitless. So the city of Ekurhuleni has put in a plan with the Department of Minerals and Energy, and we hope to finalize some of the relocations, and then we can assist on those particular areas in Makausi where we can provide a microgrid for those members. Chair, there is a section where the committee indicated additional questions. That additional questions, Chair, emanated from the audit report of the AG in municipalities. Not all of that information is within the purview of CoGTA. Municipalities report very inconsistently, and we often compare the information from the AG with municipalities, and then we get more information from municipalities to track. So, Chair, when it comes to the last three questions, we are urging the committee just to allow us a bit of time to get further reports from municipalities on the implicated officials that needs to be disciplined, and some of the criminal investigations that are underway. And Chair, the final question on the report on the wastewater treatment is, those are all part of the strategy that we deal with through the IGR process on Wednesday. And there is a very clear conditional assessment and diagnostic audits as part of the 9 processes that we have dealt with. But Chair, of course, you know, with wastewater treatment works, it's a long-term plan. There needs to be continuous maintenance. We have seen what happened in Rooiwal in the city of Tshwane. If you neglect maintenance, if you delay maintenance, it just has a ripple effect on your cost. So maintenance on all our wastewater treatments is critical. Chair, and then finally, under your traditional communities, there were a request and a question on why are there no allocation under rural development. So we do not make allocations for rural development. What we do make allocations for community-specific projects for our 2 traditional leaders, and we support them through the various grants. There were also now things such as tools of trade that were given to them as part of the project. And in terms of outcome 7, we do provide ongoing support to them, and we assist them where there is serious challenges. Chair, at this stage, when it comes to military veterans, we have not incurred any expenditure for military veterans at this stage. We know the Office of the Premier, working with the Department of Military Veterans, are working on finalizing the database, but that is also something that's coming on for some time to make sure that that database is up and running. So I'm sure by the time that is finalized, Chair, and most of them forms part of the central supplier database, you can't miss them then. So you'll have to use them and ring fence them also for opportunities, whether it's tenders and RFQs. But Chair, that's the detail of all the responses. There is much more detail in the Word document, Chair, because from a support package perspective, we outline each of the support areas in a great amount of detail. Chair, I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. HOD, can we then have members engaging on the entire presentation and you are allowed to even make follow-ups on some of the questions that we've asked as such, so don't constrain yourself. Any taker? Members? My friend will be number one. Member Masodeng will be number one. The youth league will be number two. Member Dile will be number three. Member Msimang, is your hand up? Number four. Number five, number six, number seven. I'll be the last one.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentations, HOD. Closer. Yeah, mine is on the underperformance in terms of appointment of SMS, females, which is sitting now at 35%, and the disabled people living with disability, you are sitting at 1.93%. The chair, we hear this story year in and year out. It sounds like an old record. The departments are reviewing organizational structures without even giving us proper timelines. We are sitting here today, it's it's seventh legislature. Eighth legislature, believe you me, will still hear the same story. And I'm sure this has a negative impact in terms of service delivery. Please also give us timelines. When are these positions going to be filled with women and people living with disabilities? I think on the energy crisis, the underspend of 6% on energy project, I think I'm answered. Thank you, Chair.
No. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I think maybe let me start by at least congratulating the department for the clean audit, Chair. But what I want to touch on, moving from what Member Masoleng spoke to, is that vulnerable groups also include people with disabilities, women, and of course young people. And of course, as we do a study in terms of the staff complement in GPG, whether on SMS levels, by 2029 you'll be getting a lot of senior managers retiring or at the retirement age. And I think we need to look at ways of at least building institutional memory, but also look at ways on how we can include young people, of course, those who qualify and meet the requirements, of course, of the SMS positions, because that is important in building institutional memory and, of course, building up for the future. The second part I wanted to speak to is the question around the bylaw enforcement and, of course, making our cities clean or cleaning the cities. And I think that just yesterday we're witnessing the city of Joburg taken to court by, of course, informal traders, and how we then mitigate around these issues. There will be some informal traders who would be saying that they are trying to make a living, and of course an honest living. But when you check our cities, HOD, and of course the large number of informal traders we have in these cities, some stalls there contribute to the sale of drugs around the city, because this is an easy access to then be able to get to a process of distribution. And of course, we need a coordinated approach to then say, this is the direction we're taking, and of course all all cities need to take the same approach. We must do the same in Mfuleni and many other cities that are dirty in this instance, so that we keep our cities clean, but also minimize criminal activities that are done in the cities using stalls as a cover up, because I myself at some stage I was a victim of being mugged, and these people vanished into these stalls, and you get a sense that these stalls coordinate a lot of criminal activities. And I think these are some of the things that we need to look at, but maybe ask the department that it will be important for us to engage with our people. We're not saying we're doing away with those who are doing honest, of course, who are selling things for an honest living. But of course, how we then bring about an understanding that it's important for our cities to be safe, but also we create spaces, especially in these hijacked buildings. Earlier on, we'd speak about ensuring that we turn them into student accommodation, but we create proper and safer spaces for our people to be able to sell in these spaces. I think that that's something that we need to look at HOD, but stamp our authority on and have a coordinated approach as Gauteng on how do we ensure that our cities are clean. I think on other matters, I'm covered. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. So about Tsaripo, Member Mkhobi. Retsogoro Road. Next member.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me also start by appreciating the report by the HOD, which is it was high level and very comprehensive. Chair, I would like to speak on areas of improvement. There's also what I've realized is that the department has been struggling with this thing of helping people with living with disabilities. It's recurring. Chair, let me share with you during our recent interaction with, is it better now? During our recent interaction with people living with disabilities, one of the most fundamental issues that they raised with us was that the BBBE is actually practically not working for them. They highlighted the fact that on the SBD forms, points allocated does not favor people living with disabilities. I think that's the most challenging on their side. Perhaps maybe the department might consider consulting with the relevant responsible department in terms of amending this challenge so that it can actually assist in terms of helping people living with disabilities. And lastly, Chair, I think some of the questions that we raised before, and also those which were responded by the HOD and those which are not responded yet, might be helped with our meeting with the MEC. Remember, we were supposed to have a meeting with him, but he's dodging us. Even today he's dodging us, so I don't know. So if we can, they can assist in setting up that meeting so that we can meet with him, so that he promised that some of these things will be discussed in that meeting so that we can understand what is the role of the department, their limitations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Tatemsima.
Thanks, Chair, and let me welcome the presentation by the department, specifically to the HOD and the CFO. Let me be blunt, CFO, and to you, more specifically to you, HOD. Until we deal with issues of tender mafias in the townships, we'll never get service delivery right. What do I mean? Right now, there are people who go and deliberately destroy infrastructure in the townships. They go and damage water infrastructure so that trucks can go in and out and deliver water. We need to deal with this decisively. I'm still waiting to hear how CoGTA is calling all municipalities and saying, who are your service providers in terms of the trucks? Where are they working? What are we doing to make sure that the police is working with the municipalities, working with the province, so that we stop this thing? It cannot be that where water used to flow into the taps, all of a sudden, water is not working. They go and do this deliberately. And municipalities spend billions. Billions. Money that should be going towards building new infrastructure, we're now spending that on water tankers. And some of the officials are involved in this thing as well. So we're going to need to then have a serious conversation about what is really happening around the infrastructure. How are people allowed to continue to then do this? You spoke about the issue of the stopping of projects. And I can tell you, the communities want to see things happening in their, in their areas. But you have thugs that stop projects not for the benefit of the community, but for their own benefit. So people who then go and say, no, 30%, we want 30% of this thing, but what are they contributing? Nothing. There are people who have now become millionaires and multimillionaires at the expense of communities. Service providers are not able to then finish projects. They end up even withdrawing in certain instances. So you'd find that there was supposed to be, I'll give you an example. There's supposed to be a water project. There was supposed to be in Ekangala, there was supposed to have been a sewer line that was supposed to be built there. The service provider had to withdraw because they're saying now there are people who coming on site every day, they're demanding money. The community is suffering there. There's a tender that has been awarded, but this thing cannot take place. So I'm saying, I think in these instances, HOD, you need to then be asking what is the hindrance of being able to then deliver some of these things? And is actually this municipalities coming to the party and reporting these things and being able to then take you into confidence to then say we are not able to then do these things because of the hijacking that is taking place and because of the stopping that is taking place. And also to go deep and to analyze what are the officials themselves doing? Are the officials themselves involved in these things? Because I have seen where even these thugs would even know how much the contract is worth. So they would know, you've just been paid 100 million. So we want our share. If you don't give us our share, you will not work here. Forgetting that at the end of the day, it's the residents that are supposed to be benefiting out of that contract. So I think that is one thing that needs to be looked at. You spoke about the inability to be able to then deal with the GOD or the people living with disability and the business aspect of it and the youth. But we have said this a number of times before, Chair, that we now need to then make it easy for people who are not compliant to be compliant. Because some people cannot, they want to do the job, they can do the job, but because of documentations, they're not able to then do that. We would have had a workshop in the last term where we had young people and women who are running some of the small entities who are saying it's so difficult for us to comply. You know, I want to then tender, but it's difficult for me to comply. What are we doing to make it easy for people to comply? I really don't understand why, if government is issuing a tax clearance certificate, do I now need to go get a tax clearance certificate to give government a tax clearance certificate? It doesn't make sense. We should have a one-stop shop where all these things, by just me giving my, my vendor number or whatever, I should be able to then get all these documentations. It should then make it easy for people to then be compliant, right? Because then you have that information. You would then be able to then contact SARS. SARS would be able to then tell you this person is compliant or not. You know, workman's compensation should be able to then give that information to then somebody is compliant or not. But why should I then run to all the departments that you have access to get this information to give it back to you? So this for me doesn't make sense. And I think this is something that you must have a session and talk about how do we make it easy for people that are not compliant to be compliant, especially those that can be compliant, but there are things that are making it difficult for them. And I think there's also a need to then train, because we then want to then say, no, we want people in the township to be able to then tender, but we don't tell them how to go about it. We don't deal with the issues of financial training. We don't deal with the issues of quality assurance when people are then awarded, contracts. And this is why it makes a lot of some of the contractors to then fail. I think this is something that will then need to be looked at going forward. Chair, lastly from me is the issues of the officials. Municipality, actually, let me not say municipalities, but government is notorious for suspending people for a very long time who are getting full salaries. And even at the provincial level, you're getting people who are getting 2 million rand a year sitting at home. And we're not dealing with this thing. So you are paying somebody for 2 years while this thing is being investigated. And when 2 years come to an end, the person gets to be reinstated. What incentive is there for people to then start doing the right thing? There's no incentive. I can continue to do wrong, knowing very well that no, I can be at home for 2 years, I'll get my salary, and then I'll get reinstated. Or before the charges are then finalized, I resign and get my full pension after sitting at home and getting salary. So I think the issue, I heard you speaking about within 3 months there should be a completion, or there should be actually the investigation that should be taking place. But how are we enforcing that? I've asked the question, you would remember when we went to Merafong, I said, how many officials are suspended? How many of them have been suspended for more than 6 months? And what is being done? And while people are suspended, services are not being delivered there. So these are some of the things that we're going to need to then say, they are bleeding the municipalities, they are bleeding government, but we now need to then do something about it. Perhaps one of the things that we should be asking as a committee chair is to look at municipalities and ask how many senior officials are being suspended, for how long have they been suspended? Because then that will begin to then give us an understanding of, I know the CFO in some instances, in Fuleni, a CFO was suspended for 2 years. That is somebody who's earning more than 2 million a year. And they're getting a full salary while they're on suspension. So, I mean, where do we draw the line? So, I think that is something that you're going to need to then look at and then be able to then provide us with answers. And also, I think CFO, HOD, for me, what is also worrying is officials that are guilty, not knowing that they will be found guilty, resigning before the case is complete, and then applying somewhere and then again getting employment somewhere. So we're not really dealing with crooks here. We are actually then dealing with them with kid gloves. Wa senya kamo, wa resign before ba motshwara, o tsena ka mola, and then ka mola ra tloela, we leave that case there. It cannot be. It really cannot be. So I think those are some of the things that we now need to then also have a database somewhere, HOD. A database that says this person ran away from a disciplinary case here, and therefore this person should not be allowed to work in government again until they are cleared somewhere else. But this is not happening. I want to leave it there, Chair, but I think there's quite a lot of things that needs to be addressed in this particular instance here.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to start. There's a couple of things I want to ask, and I have asked a question, I got an answer, I did a follow-up, and that's around issues of JPC in Johannesburg Property Company, and what's happening, and especially around areas like Zoo Lake, for instance, where you have the bowling club that recently burned to the ground, historic building, and it's come to my attention, and I don't quite know whether it's true, I have asked a follow-up question about this, that the person, the tenant there, had insured the property. Now, I don't think that's legal, but as soon as somebody's going to start insuring somebody else's property, I'm going to start questioning what's the reason for that if something goes wrong, and in this case where the place burned down. Also, in in an area where illegal paddle courts were built on a wetland for which no environmental impact assessments was done, not through GDOT, no approvals from the city, etc., etc. Those courts are still there, in spite of orders being given for those courts to be dismantled and taken apart and destroyed for that matter. It is believed that this person is politically connected who did this illegal action. But it is time that we take, as government, take action against illegal behavior, whether it is on the part of JPC turning a blind eye to properties that they have, like the bowling club, and not taking care of it, or whether it is about JPC, again, buying a huge number of properties in Orange Grove for the purpose of the Ria Vaya, where they spend more than 80 million rand on properties, and then left the properties just like that. Now, those are not follow-up questions or questions that I asked, came from the set of questions, but it is important that we get answers to this. Those properties are all now invaded illegally, it's hijacked, etc. And the neighbors are all living in fear because the hijackers are trying to hijack more properties in the process. So from JPC and from CoGTA side, we need to intervene if possible, and I'm not quite sure to what extent you have the muscle to do that, but for a company like JPC to do, just like we request, Chair, for the Department of Infrastructure to provide us with a full audit, complete audit of all their properties, that we do the same with JPC to provide us with a complete audit of all the properties on their books to protect those properties and not have it fall into the hands of illegal activities. Often where drugs are being sold, where people are being kept for whatever purpose, but it's normally illegal activities, and we need to deal with that. The issue of transformers, HOD, and I want to tell you that in 2018, we took a decision in Johannesburg to all the transformers that were decommissioned, to refurbish those transformers. And we did them very successfully. Within a month, we went with, in July of 2018, when the new budget took effect, we had refurbished quite a number of new transformers within a month, and we had spare capacity. Lo and behold, come August, Eikenhof substation blew up, burned down. The transformer burned out. But because we were proactive, we could replace a transformer within 24 hours. The area had electricity restored within 24 hours. And I remember at the same time, about a month, 2 months before that, Tshwane had a similar incident, but suffered for more than a week to get this up and running because they didn't have the spare capacity. And I want to appeal that when we talk about transformers, that we make sure that we have spare capacity and we refurbish old infrastructure, refurbish where we can, to keep that in our bank of transformers so that they can be utilized in the event of an emergency. Also, Chair, let me just get all my, the issue of informal settlements, it was raised earlier. We know that Kaya Sands at the moment is very much in the news. A mushroom or field and study in Joburg is very much in the news. It's become not only an eyesore, it's an environmental catastrophe waiting to happen. It's about pollution, air pollution, pollution of our water courses. All of that is happening when people are now washing their stuff in the rivers, in the streams, to make it available, because you can't give it into recycling companies if it's not clean. So where do they wash it? In the rivers. it pollutes our rivers, etc. And that's so critical that we maintain these rivers. Just as we don't want sewer leaking into our rivers, so do we not want rubbish to flow down our rivers. We need to start taking pride in what we have. And again, I'm being reminded of what happened in Denmark, in the harbor, where once upon a time they had the same problem with pollution in a harbor. As you know, if you've been to Denmark, it's the way the canals, it's all from the sea, etc. To the extent that the Queen, when it was cleaned up, the Queen decided to prove that this is clean. And in the 80s she was, when she jumped into that canal and swam across the canal to prove that they've now done something to clean it up. And we need to have the same political will and the will to prove that we are doing something. So maybe it's time for the MEC, chairperson, sorry, maybe the MEC should be jumping into a river to prove that it's clean. Because failure to do so will never see change. Maybe the Premier should take responsibility and show people that we are taking care of our river courses, etc. Because if you're not taking care of it, how can you expect the people in Alexander Cheswetla to take care of... No, wait for the HOD. He's not a politician yet. Yet. No, Cheswetla, where I've stood there on the riverbanks of the Yekska, and I saw how people throw their poop from last night into the river. Nobody cares. There's no green scorpions to take care of our river courses. We really need serious action to be taken. And lastly, one of the things I really, and again, I'm sorry to say that what we did back then, but I'm going to say it in any event. In municipalities, the financial year starts in July, 1st of July. You can see what happens at the end of the first quarter. You are lucky to see 5% of budget spent, correct? It's always a delay. Come the second quarter, 15 to 20% spent. Towards the end of the second quarter, the first thing that happened is your budget, or what happens is your budget reallocation and your budget adjustment. And then the finance people will look at where budget wasn't spent. Normally it's pipe replacements, for instance. Then they take money from there. And we saw that over the years, many years we saw that happening. So in 2018, beginning of 2018, we had a meeting. I had a meeting with the people from Joburg Water and City Power, and I said, by the time we start our new financial year, budget cycle, we're going to leave with a bang. Lo and behold, at the end of the first quarter, we'd spend 30% of our budget on both City Power and Joburg Water. Why? Because we did proactive planning, the groundwork before the time, not on the day, not after the 1st of July, but before the time, so you could allocate tenders or reward tenders to successful bidders and then moved along swiftly. So perhaps, HOD, that is something that we need to adapt or adopt from the department to ensure that where municipalities spend, that where they get finances, that they actually do the groundwork and preparation before the time and don't leave it to the last minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll also just start by welcoming the presentation from the department. And then also just maybe HOD turn your attention with regards to where you reported that all municipalities, all the 11 municipalities were supported in terms of ensuring that the municipalities complies in hiring their senior management. And I just want to take you back. You'd remember my last question that I asked you, I think it was at Mirafong, with regards to the city of Ekurhuleni CFO, You would remember that there was a directive from the Minister of CoGTA earlier this year, who had requested the MEC of CoGTA to at least attend to the issue of the illegally appointment of the CFO in Ekurhuleni. The MEC was given 14 days to attend to the issue, which obviously from where we stand was actually neglected or was not attended to up until last week when obviously the CFO was promoted to another responsibility. But it's not just that case alone with regards to City of Ekurhuleni. We also have an HOD for communication that was hired without meeting the necessary requirements. You would know as an HOD that you will need to have at least a master's degree, and obviously that talks to you having a junior degree from the beginning. But we are sitting with HODs that doesn't, meet the necessary requirement. And when we get the response or the report from, CoGTA, we are told that they are actually being supported in ensuring that they follow the compliance that, they're expected to comply. So I really just want to seek for the clarity in terms of the report that you're providing us when we have a city that sits with HODs, which is senior, positions, that do not comply. What messages are we sending, to communities out there? The outgoing CFO actually sat in his position for almost a year and a half, which means that City of Ekurhuleni were taking illegal decisions because he was appointed illegally, and the communication was sent to CoGTA and nothing was actually done with that. So if you can please just provide clarity in terms of what happens to the decision that he took at the time when he wasn't a CFO, and also why should it take you as the department so long when the communication from the minister was quite very clear to say this is how you need to act and respond back to the minister. And then with regards to the solars, from the questions that were asked, there was a clarity-seeking question in terms of asking the department to provide where exactly in the areas or the wards, rather, where these things taken. And I think we ask specifically for wards so that we can be able to, conduct oversight, because oftentimes things are reported in these platforms, but in reality on the ground, it's actually not taking place. So if you can please just provide us with clarity in terms of which wards received those transformers as well as the meters. Thanks.
Dr. Ngubeni.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think let me, HOD, also touch on the issue of the support that you are providing to municipalities. In your presentation, you are telling us that you have identified 5.1 billion in potential revenue across your Rand West, Mohali City and Mirafo, which is great. But I think all of us will agree that what we really want to know is how much of that 5.1 billion has actually been collected. Basically, how much of it has it reached our municipal accounts, and whether it's actually making a difference in terms of service delivery. Because it is our view that it's important, yes, to identify problems and put them on paper, but our test really as those who are in government and in position of power, it's whether residents do feel the solutions in practice. I think Member Msimang also hammered on that particular point earlier on, says our communities really wants to see a difference in their municipalities. Yes, we can have your clean audits, they are very important. We can have those governance controls, but if that doesn't translate into tangible service delivery on the ground, it becomes useless. Secondly, I just want to touch on the what I can call the cost of delay, HOD, because the department says 94% have been spent on their budget. But if we look at that, there's about 61.6 million that is being underspent, particularly on energy programs. Now, we should ask, and I think it's important that that comes out very clear, especially that we have stakeholders here. And again, Member Msimang asked about it to say, what is causing these delays that eventually results in underspending of 61 million? Is it procurement bottlenecks? Is it bad coordination from the municipalities? What is it? Is it bad planning? Because also the department is not doing very well in terms of development planning. CoGTA in terms of supporting municipalities on that. So what exactly is causing all these delays, so that we can know, particularly communities who are here, can know when are they going to get those transformers, when are they going to get those solar lights, and so forth. So it will be very important that we come out clear on that front. Again, maybe as the second last point I want to make, is the issue of enforcing consequence management. Because indeed, the department do report about these corruption cases. We do get it regularly on your presentations. But what we do not see is really meaningful consequence management. We don't see that. We don't. We are not being told about people being arrested in these municipalities that have been found, wanting in terms of their work. All we hear is referrals. We only hear about SIU outcomes and disciplinary processes, but we really don't get to the end of it. And HOD and others might also say, Chair, that CoGTA doesn't have a role to play in terms of holding municipalities accountable on all these kinds of things. But the truth is that CoGTA is empowered by the law to really ensure that it holds municipalities accountable. We've got Section 105 and 106 of the Municipal Systems Act. We've got the Constitution as well, Section 154 and 155. There are laws that actually gives CoGTA as a department at provincial level a legal duty to really enforce if municipalities are found wanting in terms of their ethics and individuals are found wanting in terms of their unlawful conduct. So we really want to hear from the department what is it doing in terms of exercising its muscle and in holding municipalities accountable on all those matters. Because, Chair, we really appreciate, and as I said, we congratulate the department on clean audits, on their financial management, but indeed we want more. We want that to be translated into a better experience by our residents on the ground, and seeing things happening, seeing transformers being delivered, seeing the billing systems being resolved, and so forth. So it's something that we really will want to see, and we want to really push the department towards that direction. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Let me just pick up some few issues. I think the first one is because there's been input on the support. Are you able to quantify your support, whether what is it impact on those municipalities? Because I've seen somewhere you said there was intervention on about 5 municipalities and so on and so on. Did that make a difference? On the issues of the collection, the revenue and collection, I just wanted to speak on the collection side of things, particularly that there are stakeholders here. part of it is that we know there's high unemployment in our communities. But they're not working, and therefore are not able to pay for services of a municipality. However, there's an expectation that there must be service delivery on those particular wards. And there's an intervention that government came up with, the indigent policy. Is it working? Is it really helping municipality insofar as the issues of collections are concerned? The indigent policies of different municipalities. The assumption on indigent policies that because I'm not working, I can't pay for my services. I get allocated certain services that will carry a family, and therefore there's a amount of money that the municipality will get on my behalf, something of that nature. Is it working? Because I think part of the problem is if I have to use 80 rents as an example, I end up using 120 and it becomes something else. So I'm just wanting to check whether, have you checked that? On the issues of water, do we have infrastructural problem or do you have shortage of water? What is what? Because for me, I think that's a critical question. Do you have shortage of water? Water is going down, or is an infrastructural problem? Because I think when you listen to municipalities, in particular counting, there's a thin line being drawn there between infrastructure and shortage of water. So I wanted to know what's the issue there. The other aspect that relates to the traditional, the report of the Commission of Traditional Leadership, because it quickly reminded me, you know, one of the things that the former President Mbeki once spoke about is that if the issue of the traditional leadership and the issue of land, it's not going to be managed in a manner so sound, we're running a risk of collapsing the country. And I'm saying that because if you listen to particularly what the issues that traditional leadership will raise, take Gauteng. Many of these traditional leadership will say Gauteng belongs to us. So I'm wondering what is contained in Rose report. How many of them would Dobsonville is ours, this part of Johannesburg is ours. So the land and traditional leadership in a sense goes together. So I'm saying and that caution that if we don't handle it so sound, we might create challenges for ourselves. I think I agree on the austerity measures. I mean, not austerity, I agree on measures around legal matters and how those particular matters will be handled. If you look at municipalities, there is shall we call it legal mafias this time around. There's some sense of putting a lot of money on legal issues and so on and so on. And if you look at some of those issues that are there, some of the issues could have been handled in-house, but everything just get outsourced as such. And we have the same sense that if it's not water, then we run through. Mfuleni is one of those typical examples of money being spent on legal matters that could have been handled differently as such. Okay, I've asked on the 5 skills, I mean the 5 municipalities and what impact is on the skills. On the DBS, on the issues of infrastructure, planning and infrastructure maintenance and so on, DBSA, for instance, would have raised the issue that part of the problem there is that the credit worthiness of municipalities are of a source of concern. And part of what they wanted to do was to come in, I mean, work together with the Department of CoGTA for it to serve as security of some kind on some of those municipalities that their creditworthiness is a problem. But the intention, the overall intention there is to ensure that service delivery does happen even on those particular municipalities, wherein DBSA can come in and say, we can do this infrastructure project, so long as provincial government, you come in as, and you stand as security on behalf of municipality and so on and so on. What is the point I'm trying to raise? The point I'm trying to raise is for those municipalities that their creditworthiness is a challenge, they should not be left behind. And those you'll find them largely in the districts and so on and so on. Are we pursuing that kind of engagement with TBSA or what is the issue there? You spoke about experts. I couldn't understand whether you're saying that you want to employ a labor and a legal expert in the department, or municipalities should do that, because part of the problem is that we do hire those people. However, once they are there in the department, they don't discharge. For instance, your legal expert will not go to a court and represent the municipality. They will bring another person from outside to do that. So what's the best way to deal with that? Because if I heard you correctly, if you're saying you're bringing it in-house, for me, it's a matter that you'll have to re-look at it. Because once you bring in a labor expert inside, all that they would be doing is to draft terms of reference and appoint people from outside, rather than resolving the problem that you're looking at. I think the last point will be on the military veteran. I'm not convinced with the reasons that that has been advanced, because military veterans, from my point of view, they're not supposed to be growing. By now, we should be having a database of who are the military veterans, so that we don't use that as an excuse of them not benefiting out of because they are targeted to be one of those, to be beneficiaries on the procurement processes. But a report that says, no, because of the database and therefore we did not empower them, it doesn't really sit well with me. And some of these people have really sacrificed for this country to be where it is. And when you look at their situation, where they are, it makes one to feel very bad. And the fact there's a solution for them, amongst others, to empower them. But that on its own is not happening. I think HOD, this thing that and this thing that there's no database, or there's an issue between ourselves and the office of that coordination. I think we can't continue to use it as an excuse anymore. We've got to ensure that there's intervention. And that intervention is felt on the ground insofar as the military veterans are concerned. And I think, is it Member Msimang also, who spoke well on the issues of people with disability, because I wanted to talk to them. We can then give it to you in whatever manner you want to respond on all the issues that have been raised. Please do that. Stakeholders, immediately after this, it's your time. Because and then you'll come in. So don't say you are here to just look at us and so on, and all of those things. Your time is also coming. And when that time comes, you speak your language, you say what you want to say, as such. HOD?
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, I'm going to start with the municipal support team. Anthony and Diriji Mokate can respond to some of the issues. And also, I think most of the issues relating to that with infrastructure, they can respond first, and then the HR team can also respond. And Chair, I will conclude all the outstanding matters in relation to all the questions. So, Anthony, let's start with you. It can be with Diriji Mokate, and then I think the HR, the head of HR must just come to the front. They can also respond.
Kanti wa e rona sa re di photo ha re bua. Ke batla go bona mo pela member like you doing.
Okay. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, colleagues. I think I will in the main be responding to the revenue collections, questions, and the impact of our support. So the questions are ranging from broad to very specific, what was really achieved. Now we can then calculate on the real actualized value of our support. In our sort of assessment, we have value for money in terms of the little amount we spend to support municipalities. So as an example, on the simplified revenue plans, so in Mohali City, we had cleaned over 1,900 accounts in the financial year we are under review. And certain payment arrangements were made, and those 1,900 accounts amounted to 64 million rand. And we actualized payments of 6 million rand. So we can do that calculation and perhaps give the committee a good summary sense in writing HOD through you. That's not a difficult one. We can just summarize that and give for these municipalities we supported. But what I'm demonstrating is that in all of these municipalities, we can track at the time of the support what we actualized. In terms of our large power users, for an example, that was like almost low-hanging fruit. And in some cases, some municipalities didn't even have the capacity to pick up the phone and negotiate payment arrangements. So we set up, through our support on large power users, a help desk, calling body corporates, some businesses where we thought it's low-hanging fruit, and realize some good results through that. So we can do that in terms of our revenue management support. And I think that's the key questions facing us in a pointed way is the impact and the real actual of the potential. Now, why we say potential revenue, it is the onus is on the municipality to strengthen and embark on credit control and enforce that, and to pursue what I normally say aggressive collections where it's collectible. Sometimes it takes so long in terms of the capacity in municipalities to embark on credit control enforcement and to collect that money. We are looking at a process of particularly Merafong and Mfuleni as a target to do an assessment of the revenue management departments to see what the capacity gaps are. And once we finish that deep dive into its own capacity, to look at then what additional capacity support we provide, particularly Mfuleni and Merafong, to improve the collections, which is the front end of the collections. I think HOD dealt with the back end of the data cleaning, etc. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just respond to the one on the indigent policy not working. I think in terms of the support that we are providing, so we're working with eGov to develop an indigent management system that will at least assist us in ensuring that we are able to get more accurate data on who is indigent and not, and then provide the relevant services, but also to look at how we then better manage the issue of the usage of some of those services that are provided. We are almost coming close to the end of that in terms of the system itself, and we will be working with the Office of the Premier to look at the first trial run on that particular system, which will at least ensure that in the front end, the data and the accuracy of the people that fall within that category are covered. I think the issue around the Ekurulini CMO will be covered by Dr. Ramshidi.
Good afternoon, Chair, honorable members, and the stakeholders and colleagues from CoGTA. Chair, maybe on the issues of appointment, before I respond to the issue that has been raised by the honorable member in respect of the appointment of CFO in Ikuruleni, I just want to indicate around the issues of compliance that normally our experience as a department, I think it's important maybe as a general background.
I'm sorry, can we start there? Do we have that illegal appointment? Let's start there.
Oh,
Was the CFO illegally appointed? Is that your understanding? Let's start there.
Okay. The department made its own determination, and there was an engagement up until the matter was referred to the minister. And the minister did.
No, answer the question. Answer the question. Yeah, no, that's what I want to determine.
No, Chair. I'm saying, I'm responding differently, Chair.
I don't want that.
Okay.
Yeah,
in terms of our own determination, we found the appointment to be non-compliant in terms of procedure. The procedure, that is what I'm trying to explain, Chair, so that it's clearly understood, because there are procedural aspects, there are also substantive aspects of compliance. The issue there was more in terms of the procedural aspects, not so much the suitability of the candidate, but in terms of the procedural aspect. That determination was made, there was engagements with the minister, which the minister confirmed, and then after that there was engagement with the municipality around this matter. And there were different interpretations even from the municipality. The department and the municipality had different interpretation of the law around this issue. So while we were still waiting for a further engagement around IGR to finalize this matter, we have now been informed, but we're still waiting for a formal report, that the CFO has now been appointed as the city manager. As a department, of course, we'll have to wait for the report and we'll have to take it from there. So I'm not sure whether that helps the chair. But the reason why I wanted to start with the background is so that this matter is properly understood. Okay.
How different is that, I'm sorry, members, how different is that from the Johannesburg city manager issue? Before now, then, because it was also procedural issues that were raised around the city manager, and he had to finally go and stay home.
Yeah, I'm not able to, maybe let me give to my colleague advocate to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, honorable members, stakeholders, and colleagues. Chair, the matters are totally distinct. What happened prior to with the appointees now, what position they occupied previously, has got absolutely, legally nothing to do with the current appointments as city managers. Thank you.
My question was, remember, there were procedural issues that were raised on the appointment of the city manager then, right, in Johannesburg. And there was court cases. Finally, the city manager had to go home and they started a new process. I'm not talking about the new product, I'm talking about that. All that I'm trying to compare is that how different is that issue is raising with what happened in Johannesburg, because we've got to learn from each other.
Yeah, in the main, I think the facts also differ from in Joburg. Remember, in terms of getting a report to council in Joburg, in terms of, let me put it what the court also said, in terms of the rushed manner, they took that report then for the appointment of the city manager. That was the issue. It was not in accordance with the rules and orders. It was not served before the program committee. Councillors were not given proper notice and all of that. So those were the procedural defects that ultimately led to the appointment and subsequently to the setting aside by the court. And in this regard, the procedural issues in the main, not necessarily procedural issues, but the main issues in Ekurhuleni was in relation to the constitution of the selection panels. The selection panels, in terms of the appointment regulations, says a panel cannot consist of more than one councillor. they had 2 and 3 councillors, and there's court judgments to that effect that clearly says that a selection panel can only consist of 1 councillor. So that was the issue. The other issue in Ekurhuleni, with all the senior management appointments, is in terms of the term of appointment. All the managers were appointed on 5-year fixed term contracts, whereas the Amendment Act makes provision that they should be on a permanent basis. In other words, why is this unlawful? Because if another candidate wanted to apply, but they say, no, but this is a fixed term, there's no security of tenure in terms of employment, I will not apply, you see. Whereas the post should have been advertised and clearly and expressly stated it's on a permanent basis, as the law stands. So in that respect, so those are the 2 main salient issues in Ekurhuleni, is the constitution of the selection panel and the term of employment for the senior managers. That is unlawful.
I think in our next section we'll take the matter further, because you're now even bringing Mohale seat. Okay, let's proceed in answering the questions.
Yeah, Chair, I think the colleagues are not always clear. The issue of City of Joburg, we just received, and it's in the news, that the city manager has been appointed. Ekurhuleni, it's now in the news that the group CFO has been appointed as city manager. The MEC must wait for the appointment report in 14 days. That's what the Act says. But the Act also says that if council approves today, it doesn't mean that a person starts tomorrow. There must be a process between the executive mayor and the city manager on the conditions and all of that. And only then the date of appointment is agreed. So that must be made clear. So for now, we can't even say that the appointment of the city manager in Joburg or the city of manager of the city of Ekurhuleni is compliant, because the MEC have not assessed the appointment documentation. So can we just say that that's where it is? Maybe we should forbid Member Rasilingwani not to ask those questions, Chair. But that's where we are, Chair. We have Chair, and that's where we are. Can the members also say, Chair, the city wrote to the MEC. The MEC directed us to have an IGR engagement with Ekurhuleni, with the National CoGTA, which we have done. Even the MEC convened. But the city of Ekurhuleni, according to the minister and according to us, in fact, we did the first compliance assessment that it was not correct. They say they don't agree with us. We got National involved, and National said we concur with CoGTA. So now it's up to them. The MEC wrote to them. So we can't say the MEC did nothing. The MEC wrote then to City of Ekurhuleni that they need to make a decision based on the minister's pronouncement. If they want to defend it, they then need to go to court to do that. So the MEC said you must conform in terms of that. So I think that's where we are, Chair. For the 2 new city managers, we need to wait for the appointment reports before we could do anything, because then we will assess compliance in terms of the regulations. Yeah. It's and Chair, if you read all the court judgments that came out, is it in last month, Quentin? It places a lot of responsibility on council, but there is to some extent where MECs in other provinces want to exercise power and declare an appointment null and void. You actually do not have that power to some extent. So it's a very fine line between what the MEC is entitled to do and what the council is supposed to do. That's why we tread it carefully, Chair, and we have been criticized in the past that we're taking a bit longer than 14 days, us as CoGTA. But we cannot make mistakes, Chair. It means we are embarrassing the MEC. So that's why we tread very carefully. Chair,
but just to say that I think the question was relevant, because the question was largely on the illegal appointment of the group CFO. It's unfortunate that the same person is now appointed on the issue that we say we must wait for it. But I think the question was that unresolved issue. Because the question would be, would it have impact on when you deal with it? I don't know. That's the issue that you're going to deal with when the MEC looks at the current appointment.
But the appointment of that person was not in line with the regulations. So
because I think that's where the question was.
No. Chair, let me say, Chair, in terms, and member is correct. The issue of the organizational structure, the issue of filling of posts, Chair, we're going to talk about it every quarter. And I'll tell you why, Chair. It is precisely because of the financial difficulties. As CoGTA, we cannot afford to fill all the positions. We have advertised a number of positions that we plan to fill before the end of the financial year. Whether we will actually get to that and there won't be further budget cuts is another story. So, but we have advertised a number of that posts. We have ring-fenced certain positions for women, so we want to improve our performance on women. And the same would apply to all the vulnerable groups. Chair, the issue of bylaw enforcement, it made me think about the meeting that we had yesterday with the Deputy Provincial Commissioner on land invasions. The main issue was we shouldn't just deal with land invasion, but we should also deal with invasion of buildings, but then also bylaw enforcement when it comes to illegal traders and so on. They need to be formalized, but the city needs to formalize those. It's often better to provide a demarcated area where they can trade, but there's issues of licensing and so on. What we want to propose also is Tshwane has a structure, what they call the Integrated Bylaw Enforcement Committee. We want all municipalities to replicate a similar structure and mirror those, particularly for bylaw enforcement, but then also law enforcement to move ahead. But that's a discussion that's taking place elsewhere. Yeah. Chair, the issue of damage to infrastructure, we've seen that with the installation of transformers, we've seen that with the installation of smart meters. Mfuleni is a case in point. Before we could install the transformer the following day, all the cables leading to the transformer were stolen and taken out. So we had to ask approval from Treasury to give that rollover so that we only install it later. The Department of Community Safety has a safety plan that deals with the protection of essential infrastructure, and we specifically want to look at the water plants specifically so that it can be protected, but then also some of the critical infrastructure when it comes to our substations, Chair. So there is a safety strategy that deals with that. It was fairly effective looking at the amount of transformers that we have installed in comparison with those that has been vandalized. All of the transformers that we have installed are still fully functional. Chair, on the issue of reducing red tape, more awareness to get your military veterans involved and other vulnerable groups, it's something that we need to engage with the Department of Economic Development and the Department of the Gauteng Provincial Treasury, because, Chair, it is an onerous compliance criteria to complete the tender document. And the reason why I'm saying that, Chair, when I sign off a tender, once it has been going through the process, look at the amount of tender documents that was placed in the tender box. You will find that 100 documents was placed in the tender box, but 15 of them will make it to the next round. And the first round of disqualification is incomplete documents, documents that were not signed, the directors that were not declared, all of those. So it is an onerous responsibility to actually complete those. So during the time of Interesano, we often have those areas specifically focused on in communities, and then of course it would assist. Chair, the long-term suspension of people, CoGTA monitors that with municipalities, but within 3 months, they need to start the investigation or conclude the investigation to proceed with the disciplinary hearing. The response often is that the investigation is prolonged, they have uncovered more, they want to add more charges, and those are some of the reasons where investigations are often delayed. Chair, the comments from Member Diaker on JPC and those areas, we'll take it up with the City of Joburg. We also pick up, Chair, there is just a number of areas that is surfacing on the JPC. We're currently dealing with the Greater Alexandra program. decisions that has been made 5 years ago about available land that is available for decanting. JPC is just not coming to the party when it comes to that. It has just been a serious problem, Chair. I had discussions with the acting city manager, and we got the JPC people involved, but I just feel that there is just general ignorance or just general no regard for the work that they need to do, Chair. So we will take that up with them. Chair, when it comes to having additional transformers to make sure that we have spare capacity, once we have a business case with Treasury that says we are paying 25 million for 40 transformers, Treasury and the AG go and check that we have installed all 40. So there's no two that we can keep in the backyard in City Power for them to install them later. If there is a new project, we identify the need, we prepare a business case, and we proceed with it on that basis. Chair, the main issue on infrastructure, Chair, I don't think, if you look at water, there is no shortage of water, but the communities are growing, but you need to manage water sparingly, and you need to have alternative sources of water preservation. And those things are coming out clearly in the meeting with the MEC on a Wednesday. However, the water losses is a serious problem. Hence, we need to look at our storage capacity of our reservoirs to ensure that the additional water that we get from the Lesotho Islands Water Project, it will be sustainable. But Chair, you will also find when you have communities that are not receiving water, where we have challenges, municipal payments to rent water, and in cases where the MEC intervenes directly, Rand West, Merafong, Mfuleni, as a case in point, Rand Water would give you notice that they would reduce the supply by 20%. What does it mean? It automatically affects highland areas. And you might even find that some of those highland areas are people that high-paying wards. So that 20% reduction is not necessarily saying that you do not have water, but they reduce the water supply to that particular municipality as a result of non-payment. And Chair, yes, there are legal mafias. There are. I think there was a legislature question on the amount of monies that we have spent on legal, not CoGTA, but municipalities. The amount in Mfuleni and other municipalities was huge. That's why, Chair, as CoGTA, we have appointed a few attorneys to assist in municipalities. When their contracts are coming to an end, municipalities just go back. And it's for that reason, Chair, that I was thinking, shouldn't I build that capacity internally in the department? And that capacity will be there to compel municipalities to implement what we have guided. But there will be those cases, if the matters go to court, we'll have to appoint senior counsel, we go through the state attorney. But matters of labor relations and legal matters on contracts, it should be managed in-house. You cannot just appoint people from outside. Chair, we do take note of the comments on military veterans. We say there is a database, but this review is taking long. But Chair, it also means that the military veterans must be on the central supply database. You cannot appoint anybody or even send a request for a proposal to anybody that's not on the central supply database. So it must be there for us to proceed. Chair, there is an initiative that has been started with MEC Premier getting the DBSA involved. I know some of the municipalities have also gotten the DBSA involved because of their huge technical capacity to assist with infrastructure delivery. So where municipalities agree, it's something that we can move forward quite progressively. And Chair, that report on the commission, as the Premier indicated, we're going to make a formal announcement once the Premier have engaged with everyone. Chair, I think in Chair, the list of the transformers, the list of the smart meters, we have shared that with the committee, and it is as part of the report. And there are a few municipalities that have not benefited. They were part of the initial list, to benefit, but in the end they did not benefit. Ekurhuleni is a case in point. Ekurhuleni, we have identified Davidton, we have identified a few other areas. I'm just trying to look for Davidton, Mayfield, Tembisa, South Germiston, Chief Albert Latuli Park. But what has happened when we appointed City Power, City of Ekurhuleni said to us, no, we've seen the business case, you are allocating 21 million for that work that you want to do. Give us the 21 million, we want to do it. So we said no. It's provincial fiscus money and CoGTA needs to be accountable for that. Whatever has been installed, I need to sign off and it must be verified before payments can be made. It's for that reason that some of those had to be reallocated. But all the other details are in the report. Chair, if you will allow, I will stop there. I think that concludes the responses.
Thank you very much. Have all the questions being covered? Team? Okay. Thank you very much, HOD and your team. Let me take the opportunity to welcome the MEC Jacob Mamabolo. As indicated earlier on that he would join us late. However, what we will do, we will then proceed now and have the stakeholders raising their issues, and I think as part of the process, the MEC, as we go towards closure, you will then comment on those issues that would have been raised and any other issue you wanted to raise with the committee as such. Can we then proceed? Bantu badala isikhathi senu manje. Ningalahlela amabhomu. MEC ukhona ready. Sathatha cover behind him. Ngalahlela amabhomu. Izandla phezulu. I'll just take 2 sets of rounds because abanye bethu angithi sifuna uzokuthi uma abantu uthini. Then ngizakhuluma alongside uma. Ngibone isandla sakho mane, number 1. Yes, number 1, number 2, number 3, just behind him, number 4 behind, number 5. Is there another hand at the back? Number 6, the hand at the back, the last one. Okay. Oh, ninga zofola la. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kanjalo.
Ke go tlhompile modulasetulo, ke tlhompile cabinet ya gago kaofela, ke dumedisa ntlo ka botlalo. Lebitso la ka ke Alina Popi Mokele, commonly known as Menzwaki. Ke rata go lebogela GPL ka lebaka la gore ke elelletse gore GPL I consider mosebetsi wa Triple P. GPL is a understand gore ra tlela dijo re tletse mosebetsi. So Triple P ya bontsha gore ya sebetsa. Right. From there ke batla gore ho CoGTA jwale ka ntate ya hlokometseng lelapa le leng masepala. Concern ya ka ya pele ke gore structuring sa local government se tsamaya jwang ka lebaka la gore verbally re na le district committee, re na le ward councillor, re na le ward committee e leng gore e na le di portfolios, but practically ha re fumane tshebetso ya bona ka lebaka la gore according to their portfolios ha ba khutle ba tle ho rona ba tlo nka dillo tsa bona. Potso ya ka ke gore ba reporta eng, meaning whatever information e ba e fang councillor a isa ko council house where there's a mayor ke maka. And if ke bua maka ne never re toitoye continuously if le go dilwa ka di challenges tsa rona. So ke batla go tseba hantle gore duty and responsibility at the district committee ke eng and ba account ko mang. Duty and responsibility ya ward committees and the council ke eng. Ke batla the relationship there, right? Ra tseba gore after council ke MMC. MMC le yena ha sa re thabisi re tlamehile mo jumpa re go pele. Nnete ke gore baratuwa, for as long as you don't engage abahlali, you're wasting your time. You'll never achieve success. You'll never achieve sustainability. Why? Because interruption ya service delivery e cause ke rona. If re ka ba le clear understanding ya gore this service we own it, it belongs to us, then we will sustain it with or without payment. Because I can assure you, we are now very clear for where the confusion comes. Politicians ba sebetsa ka vulnerability ya rona. We are unemployed, we are poor, child-related unity. If you check ESP and find out for is woman, I never will be a proper response. Why? Because habak bakala ka rona bongo. I can already committed voters. Then you ask yourself, Mara, in my community, there are 4 houses, this number 20. Sometimes even in that family, there's a person living with disability. Who help those people? ESP have covered. What do you want to do? So that's why whether you like it or not, you must involve abahlali umphakathi. Because hasile kopane lona at your level, everybody una le tsela e a kenang a tswa ka yona on behalf of abahlali, which abahlali you never give yourself time to have one-on-one le bona ka tsela e jwang ya di workshop, ka tsela ya di training, ka tsela ya di road show. Whenever you bring those things, they are so confusing because they are at the short space of time. Short space of time whereby le bala batho gore le batla dipotso tse ikae. And the next thing, we don't get happiness because your problem is a covering. Why? Because the life within the community, do you brush shoulders le councillor or the ward committee member? Right. A community doesn't deny to pay, but community is willing to discuss and plan according to affordability of the household. Because in Nakahola pension, 2,000. Tshwantse ke cover burial ya rona. Tshwantse ke cover dijo. Tshwantse ke cover the needs. Tsa me o nang le bana mara sa sebetse ke use. Why won't you? So guys, I can speak the whole day, but the key thing is we need to be fully involved. Why? Because lastly, amongst us within the community, there are people who are not interested in politics. They are only interested in the well-being of the community members. And we know one another. And I can tell you what is happening. But how do you committee your council? I don't know. Fanele bona ba mutsi na hamba ne council. Go tla dijo. Se re kene le ke politiki go re kopantsha governance le politics, of which these two things they don't go together. because one should monitor the other. Mara the way we Gauteng, I want to thank you guys. I want today's debate, I interest people. I realize that most of our inputs we have dealt with. Because really, without Runa, we are the grassroots, we are the foundation of all the departments. So without our integration, forget. IDP Honayanu, Councillor Isheba, okay, the last project I did within my one-year fee, if I did or I fail. From there was why prioritize? Why wouldn't you tell you? It's not a priority. There is a certain priority in but integration is the way we started it. So lastly, I want to say to you guys, please come to our level. We are happy about it because sizokwazi ukuzibeka etafuleni ngendlela esifuna ngayo. Uthi uphuma la sithi siphuma la sibe sinesho ukuthi ungizwile lo yamZulu, ungizwile lo yamSuthu, ungizwile lo yaMpedi. Ngoba ngempela isikhathi you are leading us. So ukuze singabi nomqondo ukuthi asibuyeleni belungu. Sibonakaliseni bafowethu. Ziningi indlela. Manihlangene nikhuluma ngabantu be-religion, nikhuluma amakhosi and whatever. But practically, you are not there for us. Practically, we are not doing justice. Again, nikhulumile ngama-business nani. Angeke be successful now. Wonke lama project wenu for as long as you don't involve us. Uqinisile baba sicelile. Sathi ake integrate ningama department. Uyazibona ngabona isihluku esenzakalayo manje. Government othe vuka kuzenzele. Ane sa propose ama cooperatives and whatever. You know cooperatives who never worked, who never got a cent from the government, but about 42,000. I can show you on my phone now. I can show you on my phone now. Get 2,000, but 42,000. I'm for real. Guys, please, let's work together. Thank you.
Tobe Kalina Kina Chetso Malek. The Nangar Jana would tell you Sanalo Makamula, even though she covered some of the things. My worry first is from the Department of CoGTA. I'm picking up so much alienation from the provincial with the local government. There's a consistent we and they when it comes to failures of the work. And then when it comes to them having to account what was their role, that is how they transfer the blame that we're not doing anything. And this shows to us that there's no willingness from them that is going to benefit us anytime soon. For instance now, a simple question. Was there an illegal hiring of a senior manager in a municipality? That is a very critical issue. So whether or not it was procedural, whether it was the minimum requirements, whether if you didn't follow the procedure, as a lawmaker, you know that is illegal. And I can go up now as a service provider and say, you gave this contract to this one and this one because it was under the custodian of this man. So fruit of the same tree says, we can say even all the decisions that were made might be illegal by this person because even if it was not procedural in hiring the individual, they made decisions on behalf of the people. So how can lawmakers take 30 minutes to simply say, oh yeah, it's a mistake, we should solve it? The fact that they can't stand upright and say it was an error shows us it's going to come back again. It happened in Joburg, it's happening in Ekurhuleni, it's going to happen elsewhere, and they're going to give the same excuse because they don't admit it as a mistake from the get-go. They want to run around it. We don't have people who are really there to make the law, and it's there. Part of their mandate, it's the first one. And then the second one I wanted to move is on governance and oversight. There is no detailing of what exactly is the support that is being provided. The only thing is there must be money there. There is no tangible material that they say this is how the socio-economic status of our people is going to be improved by the support we are giving to the municipalities. We're just hearing we're giving support, but what is the support? No one is telling us what is the support. But we came here to actually hear those details that this is what is happening in Ekurhuleni, in this department, these were the legs, and when we're doing oversight, we found 1, 2, 3 not going right, and therefore we're going to be supporting them in those departments. They are giving us superficial answers, broadening the scope of the problem, because if they have to go to the details of it, it will show the incompetence. All answers are just too broad. There's nothing that tells us actually what have you been doing to help the local municipalities escort. And then there's another one of the internal capacity of the municipalities to do their own work, more especially in the issues such as maintenance. The reason why we have this mafias in entrepreneurship is small things such as that have to be procured outside. Simply buying cable from here to that transformer, you must release a tender, hire someone to go sit in the tender, spend more money on paying those individuals, taking them away from their duties, and then they come back, they give to a service provider who's going to take 6 months delaying and then say the money is finished, get another one again. How is it that when you know the infrastructure that is existing, you know how many times you must maintain this water pump and 1, 2, 3. Why is the municipality not saying, we need to maintain this 3 times a year. Let us hire our own inside consultant who's going to do this kind of work to this extent. These things should not still be part of the tender process. We can't have maintenance of things such as water, things such as electricity. Actually, for me, it even feels like we're handing over the national security of South Africa. Because how is it that services, the most basic services, the government is unable to simply maintain? Not even to produce a new power station, but to simply say we have a transformer, let's fix it before it breaks, it explodes. How is that happening? When we have people who are here earning a lot of money, because you are spending 500 million, 400 million, 397 million what? 313,000, something like that, on salaries, paying people to simply go to work and process their payments and go back home. All they do is go to work to pay themselves and go back home. There's nothing that is happening. CoGTA is not telling us what we are doing. I'm sorry if that might not sound. Now, the issue of BEE, they're telling us that we're failing to get integrated into the support of businesses by BEE because somewhere you miss to sign a paper, you miss signing a form and all those kind of things. If we have a register of all the small businesses that are registered here in Joburg, CPIC should know how many people who stay in Joburg have small business they registered last week. Why don't you just call 100 of them, put them in this room and say, this is how you fill in a tender and then they go home. How difficult can it be to simply teach these small businesses to say, this is how you apply for this process? That is the first step. Before giving them the capacity to can take the job, they need to simply know how to apply for it. We can't still be failing people because they didn't fill in a form properly. How is that still happening? And I'm sure if we look back on previous engagements of previous years, we're going to find the same thing has been happening. And to this day, they're still going to say, tomorrow we fail in this ones because of this. It can't be. They've put so much red tape against growing and helping the marginalized people than they do on corruption. It's more difficult to remove someone who doesn't qualify for the job than it is to actually give it to someone who is capable of doing the job. That can't make sense. Right now, when I want to start a small business, if I need the land, I must go to the city, ask them for the land, they are going to zone it, publish a tender, and then after a tender comes, someone who's got a bigger pocket is going to come take the land, the small business go back. You go home with nothing. We are now the ones who identify the places for good business, for the ones who have big pockets. but they are saying we're not participating. How are we going to participate when such red tape that is within this council's ability to remove is still existing to this day? These are the small nitty-gritties that I really believe if there is an actual willingness, the problems that are being stated here are artificial. They can be resolved. There can't be 500 million paying people and they're still failing to fix a transformer. Thank you very much.
Sanibonani, ngiyathemba ngiyaphila. Igama lami ngumuzika efana ngakadladla from eThembisa. Umbuzo wokuqala sa-reporta nge-issue yegesi yaseThembisa saba nasestradini lapho eseyenza khona i-shutdown namanje akakasolveki. Umbuzo wami ezithembisene ukuthi nizoyi-attenda nini igesi yaseThembisa ngoba siyafa igesi yaseThembisa. IThembisa ibhadalela le whole ekuruleni. Siyafa ama-services. Sicela i-department ye-CoGTA i-intervene. Okwesibili, before ngizongena kwamanye ama-issues, MEC wasirefera kuma-official wasekuruleni ukuthi azosebenzisana nathi somphakathi. Wasinika ama-contact number wabo ukuthi sibafonele. Sabafonela ke namanye. Masibafonela bayasidelaya. Bathi asizobuya kuwe. Namanje sisabalindile. And wathi futhi MEC mabangasi-attendi sibuye futhi kuwe sizokureport-ela. Sesibuyile ke manje. Abasinaki. Besicela nje ukuthi uthathe i-action ngale. Okubuhlungu ukuthi omunye wakhona wasewodini yethu and futhi omunye ngifunde naye same school eThembisa. Kodwa akanandaba neThembisa. Ngizoqala nge-auditing report njengoba bekukhona i-committee ye-auditor general. Ku-auditing report abayipresentile la emeetingini esinayo namhlanje, we are against indaba yokureduce ama-expenditure. Mawanga-reduce ama-expenditure, imali mayisebenza kuyo yonke service delivery. Ngoba uma a-reducewa shuthi kuzoshota okuthize. Imali mayisebenza kuyo yonke into. Number 2, ngizongena endabeni ye-project esinayo eThembisa ebayibiza ukuthi i-Bachelor Extension 4. Le project ina 4 years ingakhiwa. Kuphuma i-budget bese i-budget batidliwe. Sina 3 ama-project we-human settlement. Sine Clayville eThembisa, sine Bachelor Extension 4, sine Extension 25. Njengoba i-CoGTA isebenza nabomani ne-municipality, i-human settlement yasitshela ukuthi
Uthi Clayville extension 25
yeah, i-Clayville i-Bachelor Extension 4 bese kuba yi-extension 25. Extension 25 ilena esenixton eThembisa Hospital. Njengoba i-CoGTA isebenza nge-municipality, i-human settlement u-MEC Motara wathi i-Bachelor Extension 25 especially not extension 4, under municipality. Bese ne extension 25, under municipality. Itlevi, under province. Project erana ethembisa is only a province. Lawa we municipality budget yawo idliwe angibeke nje iqaqa. Ina 4 years bayiqala iyeke masibuza bayalena le budget idliwe. Besicela i-department ku extension 4 intervene ngoba sine backlog yabantu abanga allocatedwanga kakhulu ama-backyard dwellers, ama-brown and bed wasethembisa. Sinenkinga ke ne government yethu ngendaba yezindlu kanjani na. Informal settlement yiyo eyenze ukuthi ama-backyard dwellers anga-allocatedwa. Masikubeke nje qaqa. Kanjani na? Informal settlement ina 2 types. Abantu ababuya kwenye province beze Gauteng. Babuya bo KZN, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, besebenzisa informal settlement. 2, foreign national, benza informal settlement. I-government besifocusa kubo, i-allocator bona, ama-backyard dwellers, anga-allocatedwa. Okumangazayo, kuwo wonke ama-provinces, kune-informal settlement. Mangabe i-government iyange isho ukuthi nabo abantu base South Africa mangasingili out abantu base bakuleyo ndawo i-allocate abantu ababuya ngaphandle phela, ngoba wonke ama-RDP asethembisa kugcwele abantu ababuya ngaphandle abasethembisa base kuma forums, bahlala nabo malume nabo gogo kugcwele ma forums. Ukubona ukuthi government yasicindezela iziyenze ne subsidy ye informal settlement ebayibiza ukuthi upgrading of informal settlement, meaning should iyayisupporta indaba yemikhukhu ukuthi laba ababuya ngaphandle maba-allocate-iwe bese ebalapho kuleyo ndawo mabahlale kulowo ma-forum. Umalume olwa nomshana, umalume uthi kusekhaya umshana uthi kwagogo.
That was number 3. Number 4, we... Oh, Baba. Just be mindful, around 2 o'clock there must be lunch.
Okay.
Wait first, lunch hangi control this institution and kuna basebenzi bathi funeka baseve nabo bakhona ukuhamba.
Okay. I think summarize or okwesi 4 sinama buildings endaweni yakithi avandaliziwe awakudala. Besicela i-department isakhele wona lawo ma-building lawa kuzoba ama-small businesses, izo-create i-employment elokishini. And also kunama-building a-vandalized ukuthi i-department isibhildele wona e-Kempton Park, amanye wawo occupy ama-Nigerian for issue yama-drugs. Besicela i-department ukuthi iwabuilde lawo ma-buildings sizokwazi ukuthi imphakathi wethu ube ne-service delivery. on the issue,
Conclude manje ngithi. Conclude.
ngiyaqeda, I think,
Ngiyacela zo.
yeah, okay. Indabeni ye HOD presente indaba yama transformers. Uthe ekuruleni kuna 10 transformers enikwe yona. Into esisibuza yona sisiphendula ukuthi these original transformers akhuluma ngayo eze ekuruleni iyenzeke makusha amanye ama transformers or ireplacer ama transformers wakudala na ngoba honorable Solim Simango ukhulume ngendaba ye vandalization ukuthi abantu bama tenders like the issue of electricity banokuza babhoma ama transformers for ukuthi bayazi ukuthi bazolithola that tenders ukuthi bafake lawo ma transformers manje asazi ukuthi lama transformers njengoba elethwe ekuruleni ezengayipi ireceipt and chairperson ngendaba yesikhathi ngoba uthi ithi finalize ke indaba ye issue yama tender yeah ikune issue yama tender sinenkinga ke ekuhlaleni wonke ama tender abasekuhlaleni bawanika abantu ababuya ngaphandle sinabantu abane compliance ephelele umuntu une profile une registered business from CIPC une tax clearance une track record une CIDP igrade yakhe ihigh CIDP kodwa bayamjumpa leyo muntu loyo like kune tender eyenzakalayo manje i-main contractor yase Phosphorus abantu basethembisa ama subcontractors kushuthi abantu basethembisa bathathwa serious and baya qualify for ukuthi bangaliyenza lelo tender.
Thank you. Ngiyakustopa manje. Bahlali, it's not the length that you speak eyenza ukuthi sikuzwe.
Yeah.
It's the points you are raising.
Yes.
Wawushaya ama point wakho siyakuzwa kahle siwabhala phansi. Awukhuluma kakhulu by the time uqedile ayisesikhohlweni ukuthi ubothini. So shaya ama point so that you give us time to also comment because I don't want by the time I finish comment get the IMEC 1 minute. It doesn't help us. Yabona? Mashayeni kanjalo ke singafundi.
Ngibonge kakhulu umphathi odlela Mr Chairperson uKhumalo. Umuntu Duduzwa kaNgcobo ngibuya eThembisa. Inkinga engibhekene nayo mina mfowethu kunabantu abangabutholi ubulungiswa kakhulu eThembisa. Kwenzeka kanjani emkhakheni waka housing kunabantu abahamba baye Alberton bafike ba register benza yonke uhlelo kodwa kuthe masiqala ngabo 2021 sibenzela ama HSS siba check status sabo ukuthi bamaphi uthola ukuthi umuntu uyafika kuthiwa umuntu unendlu kodwa lo muntu akanayo indlu akanikwanga kodwa mengabe wenza iHSS lithi unendlu manje abantu abanjengalaba kwenziwa kanjani ngoba phela ngeke sayithola isubsidy enye iphumile yakhe manje uthi uyafika uthola ukuthi ihlala omunye umuntu uzomkhipha kanjani abantu basethembisa bagcina sebethi izindlu zethu zeRDP ziyadayiswa nani enisiholayo niyazi and then asikwazi ukuthi thina sithi abazidayisi kodwa indlu yakhe eAlberton ukuthiwa unayo ubhalelwe iHSS ukuthi hayi lo muntu ufanele ngabe usendaweni ethile besithi siyafika siyobheka lapha kuhlala omunye umuntu okubuhlungu kakhulu uma ngabe uthi uyafika uya kamasipala uthola ukuthi lo ohlala kuyena vele kamasipala kuthiwa eyakhe uyena obhadala yonke into ugesi amanzi bhadala lo kodwa lo muye Alberton kuthiwa eyakhe le yandlu ebese siba nenkinga enkulu ukuthi uzokwenza njani ke lo muntu akasebenzi uhlala nezingane unendlu kodwa akahlali kuyona and akasakwazi futhi ugovernment ukuthi aphinde amnikeze second chance ukuthi ayobhalisa eAlberton again. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. Phathe ngathi dudulani lo ongafanele ngabe lapha. Nimkhiphi. Ngeke ngithi njalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Mdungwa. Greetings to Honorable MEC, honorable members and stakeholders. Firstly, I would like to say I welcome the presentation that was made to us today, especially by the HOD. There are just few things that I'm going to mention, of which it will be my request just to intensify on them. One, I would like the Department of CoGTA to improve the working relationship with our traditional leaders within Gauteng, of which is Induna. So I think MEC has already started the program, but really it's not intensified in all corners, as there is a chairperson office in Induna in the whole Gauteng, Induna, Mhlongo. And also, what I want to request is just a recommendation on the issue of BBBEE, and also the issue of military veterans. I think there must be a review on that one. Really, it needs a review. I don't want to discuss more about it, but if we can have a review on that. And also our HOD has mentioned that there are 2 recognized traditional leaders in Gauteng with their traditional councils. Exactly, I want to find out either they did have a publication for them, so that we will know exactly in which areas are those traditional leaders or those traditional councils, so that each and everyone as a resident of Gauteng, they will know thoroughly about it. Because I'm one of Izinduna committee around the Johannesburg, or as I'm living in Johannesburg, but really in that one I don't think that there was enough publication so that we'll know it. The last thing that I want to also emphasize, I think Chairperson, you did mention that one, that exactly the main core of the Department of CoGTA is also to see the functionality of the municipalities. So really in that one, please try to monitor by all means. Yes, I did understand when you say that you use integrated development program, IDP, to monitor that one. But this must be really emphasized. Thank you, Chairperson.
That will be the last one. Number 6.
It's me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, MEC, members of the provincial legislature, members of the community. So, okay, on pointers, it's 1, 2. HOD, you spoke of underspending of 62 million rand by the department. What happened to that money? Are you going to take it back to the coffers? Because you, on the same breath, you also mentioned that you have Merafong that is very struggling, and West Rand municipality is struggling. So what do you do with that money? Do you take it back, or do you reallocate it? Then you spoke about IDPs. There was an issue of an IDP. Now, how do you hold municipalities accountable if they divert from implementing their IDPs? I think there was an answer to that, but I would also like to hear in length in terms of how do you deal with that issue being persistent and keep on happening, because we find that municipalities deal with issues of not fulfilling their program of action, if I put it like that, as an IDP. But after administration is done, you find that the same thing happens over and over again. So how do you deal with that from provincial level to see to it that it doesn't happen again? Then you've mentioned an issue of tankers, to say you also use it as a mechanism to raise and collect revenue on that side. Do you own the tankers? And I would also have appreciated to hear how much you've raised thus far. Because on the same breath, you also spoke about businesses that side, and you mentioned the mines. So why haven't you already engaged big business to also deal with issues of collecting revenue, particularly from Rand West, because you've mentioned that you are struggling in that municipality. There were many questions, but I think these ones will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bahlali. Siyanibonga kakhulu. This is how we want to strengthen public participation. I know it's not as perfect as you might want it to be. Sizayilungisa maloko sihamba endleleni. Itlaloka taba yena kere ntate. Itlaloka. Ahona ntwe saloki. Those of you who want to do submission in writing, maybe you feel, hey, I didn't ask that question, or I could not speak in this meeting, and so on and so on. You can write it down. You don't have to do it formally. You just write in a piece of paper, looking at the details, whatever that you want to, and leave it with one of us, particularly the officials, who will be able to make follow-up. Thank you very much. Now, we are about to close, and as part of us closing, we will then give the MEC. We will give it MEC and your team to how do you want to deal with all of these issues that have been raised. You will guide us. MEC?
Yeah, I'm aware, Chair, that you're having a problem of time, and it's the time you had announced that we should break for lunch. So I won't be long, because with the committee we will get time to talk about some of these issues in the House. But let me greet everybody who's here. Ke dumedishe batho ka moka ga bona. Ke lebogele tše ba di buletseng. Di tla re thuša mo mošomong wa rena ge re ntse re tšwela pele ka mošomo. But I just want to answer two issues. Honorable Msimang, I'm aware that you raised an issue about water and the issues around suspension of people and so on for too long. I think the HOD would have eloquently spoken about the work we are doing in the IGR committee that involves national, province, and all municipalities. But one of the issues that I thought HOD will speak about, I was here when he was commenting. I thought he would have also mentioned that they are working on a business case to try to get money, although water is not our direct mandate. We want to see how we can get money to deal with the issue of non-revenue water. And I think I had spoken to this issue in one meeting, but I know that HOD and the team, when they met with Treasury in the province, they would have submitted a business case working with GFA, with CSIR and themselves, and the City of Ikuruleni team to try to see how can we put a good business case to address this problem of non-revenue water, water leakages, water that goes to waste, because it is a big problem in the province, including contributing to sinkholes in dolomatic areas. So what we want to do, Honorable Msimanga, is to find a technology that will tell us where are the water leakages. If we have to partner with the private sector to say, help us sort out this issue, we need to know, we need to have the information, we need to know where it is. So we have found a technological solution to do that, but the challenge is we don't budget for this issue. And of course, on the issues of construction mafia, you know, we're working with the Minister of Public Works. He's championing this issue of confronting the construction mafia, and I'm from the DID meeting where we were reporting to education and the same issue was raised. SAPS was in the meeting. So I think your points are well taken. But on the issue where you're saying we take long in municipalities, I wish we could get examples. I think if we were to just get some bit of, so that it's not a general point, we can confront municipalities to deal with some of the issues. And of course, some of the matters that the honorable members have raised, I wanted to know them. There was a point raised by CoGTA, ayafa di karabo ga botse gore na ge le re supporta di masepala le bolela ka eng ke kgopela go ya araba tabe gore badudi ba tsebe gore ge re supporta di masepala e re ke fe di-example tše tlhano ka speed ya mathomo re supporta di masepala re bereka le bona ka taba ya metsi ye ke be ke e araba mo metsi ga se mmereko wa rena mo provinceng kwa national mara la boraro le lengwe le lengwe re tlhakana le di masepala go discussa taba ya metsi mo provinceng mo go nang le mathata mathata a metsi mo provinceng re a discussa le di masepala ke boletse ka example ya re swantse re ba thushe ka metsi a dutlang almost 50% ya metsi a mo Gauteng a ya mo a sa swanang go ya gona bjano re a ba thekga ka tabeo re thekga di masepala ka electricity Premier Lisufi, I'm sure bonagetse gantši le mmušo wa province. Even the chair of the portfolio committee when he was MEC of CoGTA, he was very passionate about this. Actually, it was his main program, he can tell you. Rolling out in transformers, electricity, renewable energy sources, body solar, communicationing. So that is another example, Morte Khandi Maspala, practically. And then young working account we want community safety. I'm sure Tembisa Tlile Katseva. Le premier itlo boncha gore re bereka le di masepala ka taba law enforcement. Re sign le agreement le bona re berekisana le di masepala ka law enforcement. Ke nngwe ya di issue tše ke nyakang go di bontsha gore re thekga di masepala directly. Tše dingwe di officials ba di buletše dilo tša gore I'm sure HOD le mokwela bolela ka the gore ba fanyona gore ba ska ikra ba le mo mathateng ge ba fila di post le ona we buletse ke problem e kgolo re as asikuruleni Joburg fela it's a big problem mo provinceng re busy le ona re solve malobanyana re berile mfuleni re ba thusha go cleaner gona le mathata re bereka le bona bjalo le bjalo. So I was just saying the example di gona bothata eno pa ile re nako ga ego empa tše dintši bale ba Tembisa tabela ya gore ba city of Ikuruleni ga ba responda ro e bereka re tla follow up ka mkgola a buletšeng re tla mo fa report re tšere di number tša gagwe and then la mafelelo ke be ke no re go community ba badudi le honorable members gore re le kwele tseba ina skrumelo motho wa mmotša o shoya re go kwele and then re tla re lokisha. Chair, apologies about that, but I just thought, let me assure you and the committee members that we have noted the issues and those that we didn't respond to, the different members here, we will respond to them in the House. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You still wanted anybody to comment? Okay. Kaman tsomangwe, how fila gore ra fihlella ko karabong ya hao. Know that we'll make some follow-up. And the follow-ups are government either it's an oversight as a committee or government in a public meeting in your own area. Tembisa, Tembisa, Kitla Mojeza Premier was what thing. I it's a meeting with Tembisa Wale. I get a sort of Tabata about what Tembisa. I get a game of Tembisa. I don't know Lamoza. So we'll follow up on some of those particular things. Le rona re di committee a re lemo ha ratlela mahala fela ntse le bua ntse re nota re tlo itse gore no man go na le di housing project tse 3 tse go mentioned problem ka tsone ko Tembisa. Let's go there for an oversight. Re fitla re pick up sentle re le MEC a kgone go address some of your issues. Wa we go rona re deal ka CoGTA, but when you deal as government, how about raise education issues, raise health issues, and you can't say to them, no, I get dealing at on again. We take them and we'll talk to our MECs and so on. Ke batla ho leboha thata for attending this particular meeting, particularly the stakeholders. Nna ke kgorisitswe ke nkgono, so ke ba worried haholo ha ke na le bonkgono ba, so you don't keep them for far too long. Akere ba na le matsapa a mangata a fetang a rona. That's why ke batla gore re fetse taba e ka pele. Ba le ko lining ko ya dijo nne bone ba kenang pele gore ba kgone go manager bo ditsukiri fela yalo. And then ke lebogele young people ba ba tlileng kwano and any other sector of society that came to support on this meeting, and want to encourage you, like me abuile number one, abuile gore we must strengthen public participation. Because without public participation, I wanna go riante really puso. Ke leboge MEC le team ya gago for being part of this gathering, and not only part of this meeting, but for providing us with the relevant and necessary answers. AG in their absence, after that, but they did a good presentation. And then thank the Fish for Swimming members, because this was your pool. But you were swimming very well, but we want to thank you for swimming, raising the issues that you are raising. We have made a commitment, MEC, that we want to visit all the municipalities by next year, June. Visit all them, and not for the sake of it. Develop a report, which report will share with yourself on what we think are the problems in municipalities and how those problems should be dealt with. Lastly, that meeting. You still owe us that meeting. Okay. Yeah, it's in your hands, by the way. Yeah. I'm waiting for that letter that invites us. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.